But let's get into our first matchup of the days, boys. Boarcontrol versus Paradox. This is going to be a big one. It kicks things off. Obviously, you've got the really pinnacle players going up there to kick it off. And Paradox, someone that can cause upsets. What are our thoughts? Where do we think this is going to go? Is this going to be a good series?
Personally, I'm thinking that Boarcontrol very favoured going into this. He's got a lineup that typically would farm Paradox. But as I said, I've seen Paradox behind the scenes. I think he's, although he was cutting a nervous figure before, he's looking like he's ready for this. So I'm excited to see if he can step up to the plate, understand what he's going for in his outs, and potentially play towards unlikely scenarios where he can win with some of these decks that he's got.
Yeah, because with Boarcontrol, he's one of the most consistent players in the UK, arguably one of the best players in the UK. You know, it's like I mentioned before, he's the anchor in HGG, he's had so many decent runs in the past, and he's playing against someone where with Paradox, it's his first event, like you mentioned before, a little bit nervous, yeah, which is completely understandable. I think everyone's first event, they've been a little bit nervous, but you know, with him, it's the fact that his matchups in terms of his deck list and everything is a little bit unfavoured as well. So he's got a lot on his back to fall on, but you never know, he could turn things around here.
Yeah, he very well could do. It'll be exciting to see if they can keep those nerves about them when they do get out on that stage, as it seems the players are ready to make their move up and we can get them in position for something that should be an absolute spectacle. Here they are moving up. Paradox and Boarcontrol, both of them need to be prepared. This is going to be a fierce one, obviously, in this environment as well. Live at LAN at EGX 2018. There is going to be a crowd forming slowly as the day goes by. You imagine that'll be packed soon, so maybe this will be helpful for Paradox. Obviously, a little bit of an earlier start. You get that first game of the day. Is it going to help him out? But they will be taking their lovely comfy chairs.
Well, this is it. It's like, you know, with every first tournament, you know, nerves are going to play. We've all been there before, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, that kind of business. But, you know, with Paradox, it's one of those players where, you know, he takes things to heart, and he's one of those players who will try from the start to the end. Yeah. And with Boarcontrol, it's very, very hard matchup, not just for decks, but just in terms of player and the calibers. So it will be a bit of a struggle, but Paradox, you know, should be okay.
Yeah, he works quite hard with a lot of Scandinavian players as well, so because it's quite a tight UK scene, it's hard to find a practice partner who you're not just playing against next week. So he's got a bit of an edge there as well, in that the Finnish players, the Danish, the Norwegians, they've helped him out, and he shouted them out on Twitter as well when he posted his deck list. Very eager to do that. So I think looking at the VT there, he walked on, he looked quite good too. I'm confident. I think he's confident. I want to see him flourish under the pressure of being on stage.
Flourish like a beautiful flower and bloom out. And someone we spoke to earlier is absolutely wonderful, like flowers, always coming up rose. This is, of course, Boarcontrol. We did have an interview with him, and you guys can now check out what exactly went down. Let's get into that interview.
Hi, I'm Boarcontrol, and I represent Fate to Karma. What first drew me to Hearthstone was I liked card games, just playing with cards with my friends. One of my friends started playing Hearthstone, told me about it. I just started playing casually with him, realized there was a competitive ladder, and I just started playing that, and here I am today. The experience of playing at various ESL finals and against all these players numerous times, I feel gives me an edge in this tournament. Mysterious, Big Ben, Paradox, these people don't stream, they don't really, you don't know what they're going to play unless you've played against them before in various finals. You know their play style, you know what decks they like. From that, I can try and build my lineup to try and counter theirs and maybe gain an edge in the tournament. To make it to the live finals, I've prepared extensively each week for each opponent. You know who you're going to play in advance before you submit your deck list, so you can prepare for them. Also, being full-time in Hearthstone, when some people aren't, I get a lot more time to prepare various decks, new cards, new decks that I can put in that they might not have thought of. So using my just full-time Hearthstone knowledge, I try and gain an edge just outplaying them in game and with the decks I bring. We have 4 people that have won the trophy once. No one's won it twice yet, so to win it twice would put me on the level like slightly above everyone else. So that's what the aim is here.
Boarcontrol there saying that it isn't easy to get information on players like Paradox. They're not as active in terms of out of the tournament scene, right? You don't see their decks as much. You don't know what they're going to be bringing to the table. Could that be the potential trap card we see coming out from Paradox, the unknown?
Well, I'd have thought that before the tournament, the deck list was submitted, but unfortunately, Boar's done it. He's got his research right this time, and even though there's very limited information, he's got the better of Paradox here. Paradox has an Odd Warrior in his lineup, and Boarcontrol's really looking to beat that three times ideally for him, but potentially just once or twice and get wins elsewhere because he's just favoured over Paradox at the moment. So he's called him right.
Well, let's see what Paradox had to say about himself going into this event. It's an interview with Paradox.
Hello, my name is Paradox and I am currently playing for Vexed Gaming. So I've played competitive card games for a decade, from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Pokemon, now to Hearthstone. This is my first UK LAN event. I've actually been to DreamHack 3 to 4 different times now, but this is the first time I've played a LAN on home soil. There's probably way too much pressure on myself to do well. I don't have many big results. This result's like 5-4. I haven't got a big win yet, and I'm hoping to change that pretty much. For my first Premiership, to actually make it and then take the whole thing, that would be wonderful. But regardless of if I win or lose, I'm here to have fun. As long as I'm doing that, it doesn't matter where I come, really.
Paradox, a former Pokemon master, now here ready to deal some damage with the deck he has brought to the table. Him and Boarcontrol are going to have a fierce matchup ahead of them. What are your final thoughts really on this one, boys? Now they're in there in position on that beautiful stage.
Well, to start things off, you were talking about how it's very hard to get information out of Paradox, which is quite true, because in my notes I've got he dabs in 2018, which is quite a good one.
Is that still an active dab?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, he's known for it. He's known for it. This is like one of his forte, you could say. But coming into this, I have noticed that in terms of who he defeated, he did defeat Cat, yourself, Leroy. I'm sure you wanted to hear that as well, and defeated Dan, but he has lost a ball in the Premiership in the past. Ooh. So, you know, this may not hurt him a little bit, but in some ways you could say he may understand how Boar plays a little bit in terms of that. But in terms of Boar's position, you know, this is the only thing he can actually get upon. Because like he said before, didn't have much information on him apart from that last match. So we have to see how things go.
Is there any potential scenario as well where we see potentially, Leroy, you might have sort of an aspect in this yourself, where you've competed many times inside of Hearthstone, where you could be affected by that level of tilt? Obviously, a long drawn-out series last night where they tried to qualify, obviously, for BlizzCon. Is that something that could be resting on the mind of a player like Boarcontrol, or is he going to reset mentally and be fine for this?
So I think players who aren't as good as Boarcontrol, potentially like me, struggle under the pressure, under the tilt, being on stage, quite emotional. I've been described at times. I don't think Boarcontrol is like that.
No.
I think he's going to be calm-headed going into this, and he won't even be thinking about the games yesterday. It was a bit unlucky on their part, and he'll just move on. He'll be ready to take on Paradox fully.
Yeah, absolutely commit and dive into this opening series. What can Paradox do here? What is the potential upset factor we imagine might lead to him being able to come in strong? And is there somewhere where we need to see an early victory as well, just to get that confidence up, really get himself into the mindset?
It's very, very difficult to say. It's like I mentioned before, the only advantage he has is that he could potentially be unorthodox compared to Boar. You know, Boar knows his lineup. He knows the fact that he's slightly favoured in more ways than one. But, you know, it's his first event. So Paradox needs to be in a situation where he thinks to himself, well, you know what? I've got nothing to be nervous about. You know, it's my first event. Lose, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It's my first event. Win, well, obviously, of course, even better. And I'm not too sure if being previous player in TCG helps in any way, because it is very involved as well. But we'll have to see if he can bring any of that kind of like caliber of skill from that into Hearthstone here.
Yeah, if there's any transferable skills there. But it appears we do have the pick and ban, so we know what is going to be in play, and this might help you guys decide how you think the series is going to go. So what are your thoughts?
So that's expected. The rogue bans were fully expected. I was going to say, you said he might ban Unorthodox. Before they got on stage, I was chatting to Boarcontrol backstage. He had already deleted his rogue deck so that he didn't accidentally queuing it, expecting Paradox to ban it. So he hasn't gone for the old Unorthodox ban, but I think this is the correct ban from both players as well. I think gives them the best chance of winning.
That's what I was just going to add as well, yeah. Having both Quest Rogues, that's completely understandable, because it beats most of that lineups I know, of course, with the Evonox and the Odd Warrior and those kind of bits and pieces. It's a very hard matchup, but with Quest Rogue, it kind of depends like how early you get that quest done. It's always that kind of situation. There's been plenty of times where, you know, people get it very late in the game and by then it's too late, and if they get it quite quick within the 3, 4, 5 turns, then of course it's game, set and match. But I think they both just don't want to take that risk, because they know it's it can either be an easy win or an easy loss depending on the circumstance of the cards.
Yeah, so definitely alludes to more of what we expected to see going into this one, but then really, what's going to be the crunch on this? What is the extra potential spice that's going to be sprinkled into this matchup from what we're now seeing?
The Warrior deck for Paradox.
Yeah.
He needs to win with that deck. It's not favoured against any of those. His chance, I think, is in one of the games against the Druid, he can potentially go for a couple of sort of very unlikely outs. I think that is probably his best bet, to start just going straight in for getting fortunate, because no matchup is 100 to 0. Like, there's always a way that you can win. There's always a chance. And if he's not stressed, if he's calm, if he identifies that, that's how I think he turns this matchup on its head and really gets away with a win here.
Yeah. Do you think that's also an effect that could knock on to maybe more like a player like Paradox, where this is still a bit of a newer environment for him? So it's being in a big stage in a LAN environment like this, where there is a crowd and it's only going to get bigger as the days go by. Could that affect him? Could that potentially rush his decision-making, cause him to not expect every potential outcome?
Yeah, he might He might do what a lot of sort of players who aren't sort of the caliber of Boarcontrol do, and he might switch into sort of autopilot mode, where he just starts playing the deck as he usually just plays it on ladder. You queue up a game and you start just clicking things and not really thinking about what you're doing. If he does that, he's done. He can't afford to have a lapse in concentration, to forget about his game plan or what he's planning to do here. He needs to really focus if he wants to win, and he needs to play well. And that's the requirement today. He needs to play well in order to win, because he's so unfavoured otherwise. Wow.
So he's really down on the bottom there. It's like an ant, you know. He's got quite a small body, but he's got a lot of strength, and you can lift a lot. And that's what it comes down to. Ants are very strong.
Well, ants work as a team. He's only by himself on stage. He needs more ants.
True.
Well, yeah, that's true. And there is no I in team, so maybe it's just all doomed from the start. It could be a Boarcontrol win. But we will have to wait and see when we get into our matchup between these two players. They are still on stage, of course, getting themselves ready to get underway. Looking a little bit somber there for Paradox, isn't he? Almost as if he's trying to get himself a bit more into the moment.
Like meditating.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
He's
got his legs crossed on the chair.
He's got some scented candles just there by his water bottle.
That's nice. What do they smell like?
Well, I haven't been up there. I assume lavender. Everyone goes lavender.
I love a good lavender candle, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for the mind and soul.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad for Hearthstone, though. It's quite distracting, and sometimes you set things on fire.
Well, yeah,
like
that candle wax. If that wax drips.
Yeah, and he's got a book full of notes there, and he's writing things down. We could potentially be seeing a fire hazard here.
He could actually make a mess. This is the problem, isn't it?
Be like one of those Nickelodeon shows. We gunk them, but with hot wax.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get that past health and safety.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
We'll try it on you first, Leroy, and then we'll see how that goes from there.
And if you come out all right, then I suppose we can do it again, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm here, basically. That was pretty much written when they asked me to come, and I said, yeah, as long as I get hot wax.
Yeah, that was the #1, because you were actually just hired as Hot Wax Boy.
Hot Wax Boy, yeah. It's all about the step up.
XL_Hot Wax Boy. Coming to a Twitter near you soon.
You have to change your name now when you get back, sadly.
Hot Wax Boy. Oh, I was already thinking about changing my name to George Control, so that I can actually beat Boarcontrol next time I play him. I think there's a name-based meta that we're all missing.
You've got to counter it with the other name.
Yeah. So I changed my name to George Control. Suddenly, unbeatable.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be Jackie Control. See how things go from there.
But spelled like, you know, control like the keyboard spelling of control?
Yeah, maybe have Jackie with an I instead of a Y, so it shows like you don't have to be a team player.
No, someone's already got that in the UK scene. They've got Jackie with an IE down. You can't take his
Is there
name.
already another Jackie?
Yeah, there's a Jackie Chan.
Oh,
he's
Jackie
at the
Chan.
There is, yeah.
He's just on holiday in Ibiza at the moment.
That's fine. Well, as long as he stays in Ibiza, we're good. There'll be no beef.
Ibiza.
Yeah.
So.
There is an I in Ibiza. Well, look, it's all gone full circle, really, boys, isn't it? We've started working this out.
Paradox could actually win this now, to be fair. Now we thought.
I think so.
Yeah.
After that conversation, I think with the Ibiza taken into effect and everything.
And the ants and the hot wax.
Yeah, and the hot wax. Especially the hot wax, to be honest with you. I think that'll be the one. Oh, Boarcontrol. Look at that look. Yeah, very, very serious. Into it right now. Get himself ready. He looks a little bit scared for this one. Look, hand in face. It's the first time we're seeing that. How many times are we going to see that throughout the tournament?
He's just thinking. He's just thinking. He's having a think, and he's thinking about techs and what to remember that Paradox has in his deck lists.
I don't think.
You don't think?
Autopilot, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen you play.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Well, that's what I go for as well these days. That's why I'm here.
Autopilot.
Yeah, autopilot. See what happens. Play some cards. Wave your hand. It's pretty crucial to wave your hands in the air when you play some cards as well.
But to be fair, there's I in autopilot as well. See, you know, all these things are building up now to make me think that Paradox could take this 3-0 now. It's just too much going on, isn't there?
Yeah, the aura and the chakra in the room, everything's aligning for a Paradox win, really, now, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else now, you know. That could be why Boarcontrol's been, you know, so serious. He's heard, you know, he's heard all
He's seen the scented candles,
yeah.
he's smelt the lavender, and he is absolutely shaking. But we are into the game, boys. It's time to kick it off. Boarcontrol versus Paradox as our opening series of the ESL Premiership. This is going to be fantastic. Lads, take it away.
Thanks so much, Jack. And as you can see there, Death Rattle Hunter versus the Even Lock. How do you think this is going to go in terms of the matchup?
Well, it's typically quite an even matchup, I think, where if the Warlock can get off to a decent start, for example, play this Mountain Giant that he's kept in his mulligan, and there's no response from Boarcontrol, he can potentially get the board under control, sort of hit him for 8 every turn before Boarcontrol has any chance to do things. Unfortunately for him, Boarcontrol's also got some very, very good cards there. He's got the Keleseth on 2, and he's got the Egg, which the deck is effectively built around. So it looks like he might be able to match some pressure that Paradox puts out early and potentially contest the board for long enough that he can start doing things with cubes and death rattle effects and really push back.
Yeah, this is the problem he's going to have as well. Like you said, it's got that Kelesef, it's got the egg as well. And of course, with that tracking, if it does manage to get played out or any cast to initiate that death rattle, you know, Paradox could be in a little bit of trouble just to begin with. Like, you know, at least it's got one of the giants to put down just to, you know, put a bit of trouble on the board, get something going a little bit. And, you know, with his other cards, I mean, Lich King won't need for a while. Hellfire may come in handy later on, but not at this stage, to be fair.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Boarcontrol has already picked up an answer to a giant. So in his deck list, he has 2 Hunter's Marks and he has 2 Spider Bombs. And the Spider Bomb Death Rattle reads, destroy a random enemy minion. If his opponent plays a giant, he can use the Spider Bomb to kill it. So he also knows that Paradox only has 1 silence effect, which is what would counter the bomb in his deck. So he can probably just play that if he wants to counter the giant early and really stop Paradox from gaining any momentum in this early game, in the first few turns.
And one thing to take into account as well, Boarcontrol does have that Hunter's Mark, so Paradox may decide at some stage to put that Twilight trait down straight away, and then at least that way he can put the Giant down afterwards. It won't be too bad, but it's like you mentioned before, he's got that Spider Bomb, isn't he? So he can easily take them both out with ease. Yeah,
it's looking pretty good for Boarcontrol at the moment. It's only the first few turns. It's going to be a long game, but he's got the egg coming out. He's played the Kelesef. He's picked Cube from his tracking. We didn't see what the other options were, but that's always a good pickup. I imagine that he could have, because he took a while to choose, either he's setting himself or maybe he's thrown away a Beast, which makes Katharina worse later on, or he might have thrown away a Terra Scale Stalker. Those will be things that Paradox is definitely thinking about moving forwards too.
Speaking of Paradox as well, you do know that if he wins this event, he'll probably buy himself some lavender candles when he gets home, do you reckon?
Oh, I hope so.
Would surprise me in the slightest. And as you see, he managed to take that out anyway.
It's interesting that he's gone for that, actually, because obviously there's the play the egg on curve play, but you don't actually have any activators for your egg yet, and cubing your egg isn't particularly what you want to do. You want to probably cube some bigger threats because, as I said, Paradox only has 1 silence effect in his deck, so you don't really want to play around that as much.
And this is the thing as well, he could actually keep baiting out these cards. Like I said before, he does have 1 Hunter's Mark, he does have Twilight Trait, but he has 2 of them now, so easily on each turn you can put them down for 4-9. Have them both taken out. At least he's got Boarcontrol's got at least a 3-3 on the board to trade with 1, but even though he's got the Spider Bomb for the second, when it gets to that Giant, and you never know, could even get another Giant on the board later on, but you have to see how it happens. But the thing is though, he's going to keep tapping to that 15 health so he can get a couple of 7/7s on the board for later on, but he hasn't had any yet, to be fair.
Well, what he's thinking about now, I think, is he's wondering whether he wants to play the Twilight Drake and potentially bait out some sort of Spider Bomb removal with a combination, or the Hunter's Mark. He's wondering, well, he's seen that Boarcontrol's kept one of those cards, so he's probably thinking about that. Or he's thinking, what if I just play it straight away? What if I say, okay, this is the point in the game where you're least likely to have the removal. I'm going to go in for it now. So that's what he's gone for. Don't know if it's correct or not. It'll be interesting to see, because it's a very complicated math. It's very sort of, you have to work out the chance that they have a certain card. He's kept a card. Is it that? Boarcontrol knows his deck, so keeping Hunter's Mark would be a fine thing to do in this situation, for example.
Yeah, it makes completely perfect sense. I was just a little bit curious as to why you couldn't put the Twilight Drake down to bait them out. Yeah, sure, it has a little bit more health depending on how many cards you have in your hands, but it depends on the situation. I feel like maybe should have saved it a little bit later on, but maybe Paradox just wanted to end things early, and just in case at this stage now, of course, he's got 1 egg on the board, and when it comes to later on, if he does cube it and things can get a little bit out of hand, that's where he may struggle a little bit.
Yeah, it's clear that Paradox sort of went with the line where he was saying, you don't have the removal now, I'm going to try and push and win. If it had gone with the other line, the one where you play the Twilight Drake first, they have the removal, you play the other Drake, then you play a Giant, it's slower, gives Boarcontrol more time to put on pressure, but it means that your 8/8 sticks and suddenly you can hit him for more damage sort of at a higher rate, or a faster rate.
And one thing to take into account now is the fact that if he does cube that egg and get another 5/5 out, he can play dead that, and it gives Paradox no room to use that Hellfire, because, yeah, you know, he doesn't want a full board of 5/5s. Don't really fancy it, really, does he? It's not.
5/5s kill you quickly.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and considering the cards Paradox has in the situation right now, it's not something he really wants. So some AoEs are going to be out of action for Paradox right now. But then again, just saying that, we was talking about how he hasn't had any Reavers yet, but as an even lock, you know, I've played a lot of even lock in the past on ladder, and this is a great setup he has now. He's got a Reaver, still got another Drake, and, you know, does have a second Giant as of yet, but so far so good for what he's got hand-wise.
Yeah, I think his problem is going to be just playing all of those cards. They cost so much. It's a hand that costs upwards of 30 mana. How is he going to have time to play all of his cards out and really get ahead on the board. Right now, he has to deal with what's in front of him. There's 11 damage there, there's a 2 for the hero power. He has to worry seriously about dying or potentially being taken out by Boarcontrol here.
But one thing to take into account though as well, of course, with that Geist, that other play dead which is in his deck will be gone. The other tracking will be gone as well. I think he's only played one tracking so far, if I remember from the top of my head, as well as one play dead. So at least they're both gone. So it comes to initiating any death rattles, he's actually okay right now. You know, he's in a good spot so far.
Yeah, I don't think Paradox realises that, or he may not know yet, that Geist was quite key, because Boarcontrol had made a play last turn which suggested he was looking to use the Spider Bomb and the play dead later on to, to take out multiple minions at once. So even if Paradox had put up a couple of 7/7s, they get killed by the Spider Bomb. He can push more damage to the face with the minions he still has. But now that game plan's a bit ruined. You can't really go for that anymore.
No, this is it. And of course, with that Hunter's Hero power, he can do pretty much what he likes now. In terms of like what he's got in his hand, it's quite convenient he has it at this stage, and he can get whatever he wants now. You know, he can try and get some Taunt minions up just to keep him at bay until he gets the rest of those 5/5s out. But it's like you mentioned before, Paradox has the ingredients. He has the answers for what he needs to do in order to try and win this matchup. But he's going to have to take this from mid to late game to even have any kind of effects. But it's like I mentioned before, you know, if he wants to get his Reavers out and all that bits and pieces, at any stage, Boar can maybe somehow capitalize on that kind of situation when he's on that low HP and take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's going to come down, I think, early days, early prediction, it's going to come down to how useful Paradox can make his AoE effects. So he's got, you can see he's already got one Defile in hand, he's got Hellfire in hand. If he can use them to effectively clear a board full of Death Rattle minions, then I think he stands a good chance. It's gonna be about setting them up. Right now, he'll be working out the best way that he can potentially play some minions, organise himself so that everything trades in a way that helps him get there.
Yeah, there's numerous ways you can do this, of course, with that 2-4, or when he's got his full health later on. You can also use that minion to, even if he does use the Hellfire, when he has 1 HP afterwards, he can defile it and, of course, take out the rest of those 5/5s later on. So I can see what Paradox is doing at the moment. He is, like you mentioned before, just trying to line up that play. But, you know, Boar, he can read him quite well in terms of that kind of circumstance, and he knows that is what his plan is going to be. So I have to see what he's going to get from this hero power.
I'm a bit interested by that last turn by Paradox. He had two options. He could have Spellstoned the 5/5 to kill it, and he instead chose to use the Shroom Brewer to heal up his minion. I'm worried about it because what it means is he knows Boarcontrol's deck list. He knows that Boarcontrol has 2 MC techs, and it means that he sort of starts playing towards a worrying MC tech. Sooner rather than later, it could be that he's in a position where he wants to play his minions. He has the mana to play his very expensive hand, but suddenly starts playing into an MC tech that can really ruin him if he's too far behind on board, which has happened because the 5/3 has obviously survived.
And this could be a very good time to use that Spellstone special on that 4/6 as well, because I was talking about before how what other options are there for board just to keep him at bay whilst those other Death Rattle minions, those other 2 eggs, and of course that 5/3 on the board just to keep him at bay. But, you know, getting these taunts for the poison, it's going to be, you know, a bit of a pain for Paradox right now. At least he's got something to deal with it now, but later on it's going to be a little bit of a problem, but we'll have to see how it goes from here.
Yeah, he has to make a decision soon about whether he wants to start pushing face or trading Boarcontrol off the board, because if he's a bit slow, Boarcontrol can use the Deathstalker Rexar hero power to make infinite number of beasts and really provide so many threats that Paradox just can't handle it. And he's at such a high health total that Paradox will struggle to put reverse pressure on him and stop him from doing that so effectively.
Yeah, at this stage, you can put another taunt down. It'll be a weak one, if that. And even putting that high main down now, you know, just leaving him completely open. Like you said before, Paradox might be in a position where you want to try and just race it, because like I said before, he's got that Bone Mare. And even if Boarcontrol does have that high main, that's not really going to do anything anyway. Yeah, sure, it's got a bit more presence on the board, but there's not really anything too much else. And we're surprised to be later on if it does hero power once more.
Yeah, he's upset there, I think, because he's not been able to fit the hero power into the turn. But I like being able to play the Spider Bomb instead of the hero power. What it does is it slows down the board. It gives him more chance to get his high mains rolling, his cubes rolling, his Katharina and his hero power, where he can just grind out so much value over the course of the game that he eventually wins it. Fortunately for Paradox, he's picked up that 1 Spellbreaker, and if he wants to use it now, which is a very important decision to make here, he could decide to use it to kill the 2/2 without its Death Rattle going off and killing one of his minions, and potentially push a bit more of board pressure. But he might save it for a cube or a more impactful Death Rattle later on in the game.
Yeah, this is the issue he's going to have. It's he can either... Because one thing to take into account now is the fact that he's already used one silence. Sorry, not one silence. He's already used one cube at this stage. So he's going to maybe think to himself, well, does he have another cube? But then again, he would have known that by now. He would have queued one of those eggs like 2 or 3 turns ago. So if he used a silence now, I would not blame him, because it may end up having to be a fight for face and he would just go straight away, which, again, I don't really blame him now.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. He's played into MC Tech. I think he potentially had enough pressure on board at the moment, but he's decided that he wanted the extra 4-4 body to stay down, and he's been punished quite hard there. That's the second best minion that Boarcontrol could have taken.
Yeah, I was looking there. He would have rather had the 4-7, but, you know, I'll take a 4-4. You know,
Take a 4-4.
I'll take one of those.
Yeah,
don't mind.
He's played a 3-mana 4-4 that killed your opponent's 4-4, summoned you a 4-4. That's it's pretty good for the cost, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think.
I think he's having a good time. You can't complain.
And Paradox could have played around that. He saw that there's cards that Boarcontrol's had since very early on in the game. He could have anticipated that happening, and I think that might be potentially that playing on stage, not having the deck list available sort of in front of him at the moment, because obviously you have to take notes by hand, it could have been something that he didn't think about, a bit of an oversight there.
Yeah, because I think in Boar's deck, I think there's 2 MCs, I think you mentioned.
Yep.
Was it just the one? Yeah, so in that kind of situation, like even if there's just one MC in their deck, you shouldn't really make that play anyway, due to the fact that it's halfway through his cards already, so there's obviously a good chance that he'll have that in hand. But maybe he just wanted to get rid of him anyway because he knew that he's already got a board. But look at his board presence now. Speaking of the devil with Boar now, he's Boar having board presence.
It's a really good turn. He's spent all his mana. He's played one of the best 6-drops in the game that also has +1/+1 on it, just tacked along to make things even trickier. And suddenly Paradox has to find a way to clear the board. Boarcontrol also has these 2 eggs, which even if the board is cleared, just more 5/5s pop up, and it's going to get tricky for him here. He's going to have to find a way to clear it, possibly just taunt up, I think, at the moment, and try and survive a little bit longer until the clears look good.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to mention is the fact that if one of those minions was actually a 4/4, then at least that way could have traded with the eggs, could have hellfired and then defiled afterwards, so at least that way it can clear the board. But sadly for him it wasn't the case. It was only a 4/3, so there's nothing too much he can do. But good time to play Lich King, of course. He hasn't really got a full hand as much anymore, and at this stage he can't just keep tapping until death, you could say. And that second giant hasn't even come up either, which is not too surprising, but he's put most of the stuff on his board already in terms of what he needed. And that bone mare is still there, so at any time you can use that and just finish up that game.
Yeah, and he's picked up quite a crucial Death Knight card there as well. He's picked up Death and Decay, which does 3 damage to all enemies. That means that in combination with the Hellfire and the File, he can probably clear the board, depending on sort of what comes out and how big these things are. If this is a King Crush, for example, and suddenly things get a bit trickier.
Yeah, he's not going to be enjoying that, but you got to remember as well, one of his high mains are already gone, so there was a better chance, of course.
Yeah, and he's got the Witchwood Grizzly in hand as well. But we don't know what he discarded with the tracking at the start. It could be that Katharina might not have pulled anything. It could be that he had to make sure that he got rid of the King Crush earlier on with the tracking.
That is true, and without that other tracking, another player dead, you know, those eggs have been there for quite a while. You know, I think they're just hibernating at the moment.
Yeah,
just
well,
like, you know,
they're an insurance policy.
Pretty much.
He said, you can try and clear my board, but if you do, you have to do it well, otherwise I'm just going to kill you anyway.
Just making life hard for him, really, isn't it? Just, you know, it's his first event, you know, give him a break, you know, it's just one of those things. But, you know, it's all to play for here, and you can see now that with Paradox, he's got plenty of AoEs now. There's so much he can do here in terms of what he wants to do, but it depends how he's going to clean this board up.
Yeah, there's definitely, without having looked at it too long, there's definitely one of those puzzles where you can spend 5 to 10 minutes looking at it to see if there's a really nice board clear that you can do. I suspect there might have been, but it's so hard in the moment, especially when you're on stage. What he's done is he's gone for a safer play, which makes sense. I agree with that.
And Boar getting a 3rd egg, well, it's not something you want as a top deck, really, isn't it? But of course, he will be going for the hero power just to try and continue to keep him at bay.
Well, there's a chance that he can just win the game here if he gets... Yeah, see, he didn't get it, but there's a chance for a bloat bat that also has rush and poisonous that you can just trade in, clear the board, and straight away kill your opponent with the 2 minions and survive on your side of the board. So he was looking for lethal there. He was looking for a way to win.
Yeah, because he still gets Gul'dan in hand anyway, and a lot of his... I think he's played a fair amount of demon cards anyway, so of course he's got those 2/2/4s, he's already got 1 Inferno down, he's... I think he's only played 1 Reaver from the top of my head as well, so from there, you know, he's got a decent list, but of course 2 taunts aren't going to stop all that, and depending on how things are going to go here, we have to see exactly how to go about doing this.
Yeah, it's looking good for Boarcontrol. What he's done is he's done what I said at the start. He's managed to get a board that's insured against AoEs, that makes it difficult for Paradox to sort of have time to react. That's not the card you want to see in this situation.
I saw that Mossy Hover top decked, and Paradox probably thinking, well, you know, I don't want to give him even more an advantage. You know, I'm in a bad spot as it is, which is completely fair enough. But he can trade that 4-3, that high main will still be there, but this is where Paradox has got to decide how he's going to use his AoEs now. We spoke about it time and time again, but we have to see exactly how he wants to play about and to actually do this now.
Well, I suspect that this turn he's probably looking at the Gul'dan as an option, because he's definitely played one Vulgar Homunculus. I believe he might have played two. So he gets a couple of taunts back that stop the high main from connecting with his face. He heals for 5 to 11. This could be the start of him getting back into the game, getting back on board and using his hero power, which is very powerful hero power, effectively to hopefully clear the board or get there. But that's a perfect draw for Boarcontrol, I think.
Do you know what's funny? When he said 5 to 11, I looked at my watch. I was like, is it early? I was like, okay, maybe not. But yeah, of course, he gets that Mossy of his own. He's going to see, again, what he can get for his hero power. But it does have a life drinker anyway, but give him a little bit of health back. But, of course...
This is a big board now.
Yeah, he's going to be... Well, the thing is, though, it's kind of... You could say it's helped Paradox in some ways get those eggs out for him now. So this is why I mentioned it before, time and time again, how he's actually going to take these out. But he's got plenty of options, to say the least, anyway.
He needs to do a lot with those options, though. I think he might have a way out here, but it's not one that... it's a caster math situation. I'm sure there's someone in chat who's spamming that there's a way out or a way to survive this one. It will involve him using at least the Hellfire and at least the Death and Decay and at least his hero power to get there, which Boarcontrol, he knows that. He knows that that's the way it is, and last turn on his picks, when he was picking his minion, his Beast from his Death Knight hero power, he chose something that has direct damage, that just does 3 damage to the enemy, so that he can hopefully play around this a bit better.
Everyone's probably spamming in chat. How do casters not know maths? Like, just
He's found it. He's found the clear.
Exactly.
Is it enough? Can we just say it's there? Can we say, oh, Paradox is a good player, he'll work it out. He knows what he's doing.
He knows his stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's not mucking around it. But like I mentioned before, it does have that huge life drink anyway, which is, of course, in that kind of circumstance, get a little bit of health back. But the position Paradox in now ain't looking too great. And if anything, like, if Boar gets a charge just to finish things off, then this could be end of game 1 here.
Well, I suspect what he's doing at the moment is calculating his chance of lethal. So he can press the hero power button and find potentially something that goes along with a Stone Tusk Boar or a Tundra Rhino for lethal. His other option that turn was to play the 6-drop, the Life Drinker and the other beast that deal 3 damage to Paradox, and the Macaw, the Jeweled Macaw that's in his hand as well, which is combined with, I believe, a Bloat Bat? No, not Bloat Bat, something else. And he plays those and pushes more on the board. He's decided to try and find lethal now. He thinks his odds are better of winning the game on that turn, which, fortunately for him, hasn't happened now.
Yeah, and of course with Paradox, you can't really get too much health back. Does have that Siphon Soul, but even then, he's going to be on 7 HP, still really weak as anything, and it's going to be difficult for him to see what else he can do. I think he does have another Spellstone left in his deck, which he hasn't drawn yet. But it's getting very bleak for him. He's going to have to try and see if he can figure out any way. But one thing to take into account is the fact that he does have his hero power, does have that beetle, won't really do too much as of yet.
Yeah, and he's got the Siphon Soul as well. He can heal out of range. I was wondering, Boarcontrol looked quite upset there. I suspect it's because when he pressed the hero power, he was looking for a beast that he could play alongside the Jeweled Macaw that he's already got. So he could play 2 zombies at once, potentially play around some of the cards he knows the Paradox has, like the Siphon Soul, potentially also the hero power. It's not worked for him there. He's been a bit, well, unfortunate. His beast cost a little bit too much, but it does mean next turn he can do a similar thing, where he can play 2 things at once and potentially put more pressure on.
Just play everything.
Play as much as you can. Spend the mana. your hero power reads infinite value, so spend as much mana as you can, I say.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And I think it feels like now, like, it could have, you know, could have Siphoned Soul just to be that extra bit careful, but it does get that beetle down anyway, so of course next turn, you know, he can Siphon Soul to get free, he can use Hero Pad to get another free as well, so he'll be on about 10 HP with free armor straight afterwards, just to keep him at bay, but that's if he gets to that turn, of course.
Yeah, so he's gone for it again, he's gone for the lethal again this turn, he's missed it. He might end up picking this Jungle Panther because it's got stealth. That will get shut down a little bit by the Bone Mare because obviously he can't get through the taunt when he's taunting up one of his Ooze or his plated beetle. I thought it was very interesting in general for Paradox that he chose on that turn to play to play the 2 Defiles and Hero Power the minion and then play 2 of his own minions. I thought that was quite telling that he's looking to get on board, get his Bone Mare to be useful for him, to potentially push back and deal enough damage to kill Boarcontrol before he gets overrun and things get out of hand, because eventually Boarcontrol's going to find the lethal.
Yeah, he has got his Sun 3 protectors to, of course, help with that Giant as well for later on. But, you know, he's in an okay spot. Like, it was looking pretty bleak to begin with, but we're not Taunted Beetle now, and the fact that slowly but surely Paradox is getting health back bit by bit, but at the stage now, you know, Boar is, I would say, on limited time, but then again, so is Paradox, because he's running out of cards, running out of minions now, and at some stage, he's have to try and find a way out of this. Yeah,
Boar's managed to collect a lot of Zombies, but do you remember earlier when we said that Paradox had a lot of cards in hand and he needs the mana and the time to play them? Now Boarcontrol's in that situation. He's got so much he's got so much power in his hand, but he just can't afford to spend all the mana this turn, and he's trying to find the best way that he can, well, get through this game.
He's like a multi-millionaire. He just has no way to spend his funds, pretty much.
Yeah. So he's gone for this actually. That Terrascale Stalker 2 turns ago is a very key pickup. It's enabled this bloat bat to just clear the board. It's an incredible board clear, very powerful option from DK Rexar, and Paradox was cheering there, but I don't know why.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, because it's lethal.
Exactly.
Oh, lethal.
Lethal with lethal. So of course he does clean up, uses Hero Power, gets that Hellfire going. It's a shame really, because of course, you know, by the time Boar managed to get board control, it was just too late.
We missed it as well. I mentioned it very briefly, that Paradox was looking to push damage and set up his own lethal. We totally missed the lethal setup that he got. Can you believe it?
Good maths by casters.
Good maths by casters.
Just one of those things, isn't it? But you know, our maths isn't the best, but to be fair, I actually got a maths degree and I still didn't see that, so I think that I'm probably the one to blame.
Well, the thing is, Paradox didn't dab. We were expecting him to dab, we thought that would be the give, and he didn't do it.
See, I'm a bit disappointed now because of that, because I was quite looking forward to it. Maybe when he gets to like that 3rd win, if he does win this series, then we'll see a little bit of it, you know, because I've got it in my notes, you know, I've got it here waiting for him to actually, you know, deliver the goods really, but just seems to have not happened yet. But of course, that even lock was won by Paradox. We did say to begin with that it is a very even match in terms of what can happen. Of course, if a Death Rattle Hunter managed to get any of his play deads early or get any of those Death Rattle initiations on those eggs, then we could have seen a completely different story. When you get rid of his Ares quite early, it looks quite bleak, but Paradox played that quite well. To begin with, it wasn't the greatest. I think there was a couple of mistakes here and there which maybe it could have made instead of making that Giant played first. Could have baited out with the Twilight Drakes and those kind of bits and pieces when he had the Hunter's Mark. But in the end, he did. It's like, it wasn't the greatest of starts, but it was a good finish.
Yeah. No, I mean, playing into the MC Tech was probably a bit criminal, but apart from that, very well played game, and he knew his outs, definitely, which is what I said at the beginning. I said, if he wants to win these games, he needs to have a good understanding going in, he needs to be focused, and he has been, and that was very well played from him. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, because it could have been any kind of scenario. Like, sometimes with even lock, it can be quite weird. If sometimes Death Rattle Hunter has a decent hand to like even to end with, and they've got a hero power, things can get out of hand, and you know the even lock can kind of drift away a little bit and lose that tempo until the end. So it can be a bit of a pain sometimes.
And now we've got Togwaggle Druid versus Taunt Druid. Not really a mirror match. They're very, very different decks and they play out differently. It's interesting to see that Paradox has decided. Ooh, nice Wild Growth, eh?
Yeah, can't complain. To be fair, they both have one. The only problem is Paradox doesn't have that Nourish, but going from Wild Growth into, well, it won't be calling Nourish, of course, but it won't go into Nourish later on. You know, not a bad start, I don't think.
Not a bad start at all. This is one of those games where Boarcontrol will understand what Paradox's win condition is. He'll be looking to draw a lot of cards and try and match Paradox's draw a little bit so that he doesn't get milled and that he gets his Hadronox on time instead of Paradox stealing his deck and taking it, and he gets his Witching Hours, which he's got one of, and cubes, and the ability to make such a big board that the Paradox just can't answer it when you get to the point where the Mildred the Paradox is playing is looking to execute their game plan and swap the decks and win in fatigue.
It's quite funny because a couple of weeks ago, it's in the Premiership overall, we've seen so many different Druids, but like, of course, that's quite natural anyway, but a lot of the players have had the same ones, so there's been like some weeks where we've seen nothing but tokens, some weeks we've seen nothing but taunt, that's like right early on, but we're seeing a mixture of everything in everyone's lineup. We know we can see a Mill Druid, we can see a token later on, we can have a taunt one, of course, and it's going to be, it's quite crazy how we've got every single type of Druid in this matchup, like in the whole of the
and they all run
finals.
They all run very similar cards. They all run Wild Growth and Nourish, and they all run Branching Paths. It's because, and Spellstone, it's because Druid has a very, very good core set of cards. I mean, most of them even run Ultimate Infestation. Boarcontrol's deck, the Taunt Druid, doesn't, because he runs so many expensive minions anyway. He doesn't have time to play it. It's not a card that's as crucial to his game plan when he's drawing heavily anyway.
This could end up being a little bit quicker than usual, because I did say earlier that Paradox has got a Wild Growth. Shame he hasn't got a Nourish, but he can, of course, use that Nourish later on anyway, so he's already, you know, in a not bad of a start.
Yeah, it looks like he understands what he's got to do, and what he's got to do is he's got to draw his deck far faster than Boarcontrol draws his deck. It's pretty much as simple as that. What Boarcontrol's doing is he's ramping into hopefully a draw where he gets the Dragon Hatcher, which is quite a pain to deal with, or something that starts pulling minions, or Oak Heart, something that starts pulling minions from his deck to effectively thin his deck that way, and also provide sort of insurmountable pressure at the same time.
Do you feel like Boar at this kind of stage is, you know, it's all said and done, but yeah, to try and get cards out as quick as possible. Do you feel like it's more for Boar in terms of course, with the Tog as well, you know, it's on borrowed time?
I think Paradox is the person who, if this obviously goes on for a long time, wins. So Boar will understand that. But he can, for example, he could, if he wanted to, use this branching path to draw. I don't think he will. I think what he'll do is he'll play the Primordial Drake and then next turn play a 5 and a 4 together to just be sort of more mana efficient. But he'll be probably looking to draw or pressure. So he won't gain armor. He'll either give his minions attack or he'll draw more cards in order to try and match Paradox.
Yeah, even though Boar hasn't got the best of hands now, he can at least draw and armor up anyway. At this stage, I presume he'll just draw, because at this kind of point, you know, it doesn't really matter about the health of your hero or anything like that in that kind of circumstance. You don't really need to armor up, it's not exactly necessary until later on. So both these guys will just be drawing both of these cards every single time.
Yeah, I think so. It's basically just a race. It's a draw cards race, and Paradox gets that. He doesn't want to overdraw. He wants to be able to actually sort of play his hand as quickly as he can, which is obviously why he's gained armor there, because if he had drawn a card there, he'd have ended up in a position where he was potentially milling cards while there's still combo pieces left in his deck.
Not something he wants, really.
Not something that's great, especially in a combo deck when you can just lose the game instantly if the Azalina just disappears before your eyes and gets burnt.
Yeah, it's been very, very similar so far. Both players had Wild Growth to begin with, both have Nourish to continue on with their mana growth, and of course afterwards they both had Branching just to get that card draw going. So it's been quite interesting. The only difference is Paradox has had to armor just to get his Spellstone up to at least to a decent level to put some damage onto one of the minions later on. Yeah,
we're coming up to some tricky turns now for Boarcontrol, because he knows that Paradox has got double MC tech. Obviously it was important last game, but didn't sort of swing it too much. He will be looking to play around that. It could be, for example, that he maybe even cubes one of his own minions, knowing that the Druid doesn't actually have many board clear tools. So just having one Hadronox and one cube and one Witching Hour, that's probably enough. So he can probably use the cube to create a threat, to have things that sort of make Paradox worried, but still not play into the MC tech too much. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes for that sort of line.
You have to see what he does here, if he does go for those Poison Spiders or those 2/1/5 taunts, but I think you know it better than I do. We'll go for those spiders and at least see if we can get anything dealt with him. Like you mentioned before, Druids don't really have too much AoE apart from the swipe, and even if he did have a swipe, it wouldn't actually been too bad. He would have taken out one and hero powered the other, but sadly for him, it's not the case unless he somehow top decks it.
Well, he's got Primordial Drake there as well, so he can just play that from hand. Yep. What's interesting is Paradox here has used the Spellstone to kill the Taunt minion, when if Primordial Drake had come down, he could have put Boarcontrol in a position where he has to just kill off his own minion anyway to play around an MC tech. So I think there was definitely a potential there where Paradox could have held the Spellstone, taken a little bit more damage, but forced Boarcontrol in a position where he kills his own minion on the poison taunts, or where he just gets a good MC tech pull. So an interesting line, an interesting turn where potentially there could have been more optimization about what you were doing.
That is definitely it, and of course that MC tech's been there the whole time. He's had absolutely no opportunity to play it straight off the bat, and even playing won't really make too much difference. It would have done maybe if you used Branching to get those +1/+1, but like I mentioned before, in this kind of matchup, it's more about card drawing and a little bit of armor, especially in Paradox's case, considering Boar's had Boarcontrol literally the entire time, last five turns, I think. 6 turns.
That's to be expected, really. I think Boarcontrol's always going to have the board. He's going to just play a load of really fat minions that Paradox can struggle to deal with. What Paradox has to do, I keep alluding to this because I think it's important, is he has to continue to understand how he wins the game. He has to stall, which is what he's doing. He has to heal, remove the board when he can, within reason, and then find his combo pieces quick enough that he can that he can swap the decks before Boarcontrol pulls the Hadronox that he's looking for. It was back on turn 9, for example, he played the Branching Paths, and when he drew the Oaken Summons, because it's a card that pulls another minion from his deck and thins it even further, he played that instead of playing the Trog Glue Meter, which was the original plan before he started drawing cards, just to get through his deck quicker. It's all he wants to do, just get through his deck as quickly as he can.
And of course, that's exactly what Boar's doing. Does get that second branch in, does get a naturalize. Going to see just exactly what he gets next. And even with a Sleepy Dragon now, it's like, you can put that down. That's not too bad. At least he gets another beefy minion out there. But of course, not really a better time to get that Trog down. At least he can take the rest of his minions out. But he's got to try and figure out a way to actually try and get past this and see what else he can do from here.
Well, he'll be upset that he's drawn 3 of his dragons so far when he has Dragon Hatcher in the deck. If that Sleepy Dragon was a Dragon Hatcher.
Pretty much invalid now.
Yeah, he can see if that's a Dragon Hatcher, he can play the Dragon Hatcher instead. It'll pull a dragon, further thinning his deck, further getting him towards the Hadronox that he needs to win this game, I think. And he'd be a happier bunny, or a happier boar, as it were. But instead, he's walking a tightrope at the moment, where he has to be he has to keep drawing fast and really hope for the best at this point.
One thing I like about Paradox as well, compared to that first game, he seems a lot more calmer now. You know when I said sometimes you get those first game jitters, don't you? He seems a lot calmer and being a lot more careful with his plays now, because it's very easy to, you know, if you get a little bit nervous in these kind of matches or these kind of tournaments, you can easily go into ladder mode, really, just auto.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, he only did a little bit that first game, but this second game, we're seeing like the Paradox we normally see, so if we do, we might even get that dab in. You know?
Oh, I'm so excited for the dab when he... Well, the thing is, he might not actually... He has to win the games for that to happen.
That is true.
So he's not going to dab when he... He's not a madman. He's not going to dab when he loses. Who does that? So...
Well, I don't know. You tell me, I suppose. Well, let's see what happens. But it's a bit of a shame because with Boar, like, you know, he's got those 2 naturalizers, he's got those 2 cubes. He's even got something to actually revive that Hadronox later. He's got everything he needs, just hasn't got that one card which is so vital. I've been in this situation before with Taunt Druid, and it can be a pain.
Yeah, and it's and the time is closing in. Paradox has to... He plays Florist in his deck, which is the 7-mana 4/4 that reduces the cost of a minion in your hand by 7. So what he'll be looking to do is probably try and get the MC text out of his hand before he can do that, or stack up the weapons so that he can play the Togwaggle, activate the weapons, Death Rattle, and then Azalina to steal his hand and therefore steal the card that swaps decks back, so the decks remain swapped forever. And that puts Boarcontrol on a clock. He has to draw the Hadronox within the next 4 or so turns. Paradox has to play out some of his MC techs, which is a difficult balance because obviously he wants to get value from them as well. He wants to steal a Taunt minion that's revived or take something away. So it's going to come down to a couple of these turns and the draws during them.
Do you know what's quite funny? We were talking about when he would actually get the Hatcher as well, and it's probably a little bit too late. Yeah, at least he gets it, but a little bit too late. Though. It is the worst thing, you know. When you do play as Taunt Druid and you've already had most of the taunts anyway, and when you get a Hatcher, you're just like, cheers, mate.
It's still a 4/12, and it still thins your deck, so he's still not unhappy about it. But he needs to get. He's got 2 outs. He's got Oakheart, which will always pull a Hadronox now because both of the Ironwood Golems have been played or pulled from the deck, and he's got Hadronox itself, and they're the 2 cards he needs to hit as soon as possible, really, for him. And anything else probably won't cut it because Paradox is definitely gonna start comboing together soon. He's even playing the UI just to get everything out of his hand or get everything into his hand and everything out of his hand as quick as possible, which is the goal of his deck.
And this is it, and he won't even overdraw as well, which will make things even twice as better. The only problem is with Paradox is the fact that he used one of his MCs from earlier, so he's only got 1 left if Boar does get the Hadronox down. But even then, even when he uses it and naturalizes it, the only problem is it's just going to revive it again, and it's just going to be one of those situations, really.
Boar can be very, very ballsy here. If he wants to, there is a percentage chance that he can win if he naturalizes 2 minions. Personally, I don't know what the odds are because we can't really see the deck. It looks like there's about 3 or 4 cards left in it. I know that the Druid just said my deck's running out of cards, so if he knows that, that's the out, and if he thinks that's his best out, he'll do it, and he'll probably end up burning the Azalina, which is an immediate concede from Paradox. He might not do that though, because that might not be the best play on paper. Even though we can see it from here with caster vision that it's good, I don't think it's necessarily the actual best play.
Yeah, it seems like just playing it safe for the moment. Maybe he wants to wait for it until later on. I think one thing to take into account as well, but with some of the cards in Paradox's hand, Boar's going to notice that he's not played them since the beginning. So he could be thinking that is actually one of the cards and might never realise. But he's going to naturalise it anyway to see exactly what it's going to burn.
Oh, that's such a... So Paradox has drawn the Azalina now, which means that he's not going to overdraw any combo pieces. And if Boarcontrol doesn't pull the Hadronox, he's going to lose this game as well. Very, very fortunate there.
Very fortunate. Can you imagine? Like, you know, I think we've all been there where it's like, you know, we've had something really needed, it gets burned, and we're just like, thanks. You know, cheers.
It's not been burnt this time. Paradox can count his lucky stars, I think.
Yeah, I think he can, in all fairness. It's just, I can't believe his Hadronox is like right on the back of that deck. He's had everything he needed.
Yeah,
to not make a for it. Exactly, not to make a comeback, but of course, like just to win the game, but just not had it now. And I think Paradox knows that, you know, these MCs are not invalid, but like not as much use now.
This is it. This is the turn where you have to draw Oakheart or Hadronox, and fortunately for him, he's not drawn it. So what's going to happen next turn is Paradox is going to play Togwaggle. He's going to attack with the weapon, play Azalina, naturalize something, and suddenly Boarcontrol is going to be up the creek without a paddle.
That is it. That's definitely one way of putting it. Because of course, yeah, when he does do that, he's going to have nothing at all. The only thing he's going to have in his hand is, of course, a cube. What's he going to cube? Well, what, another cube? Like, it's not exactly going to be suffice at all. Yeah, he's going to be in a very bleak spot, and it will just be a an insta G pretty much. Yeah,
I think so. He's probably right now considering the opportunity, or the chances that there's not certain cards in Paradox's hand. What if his last card is? Well, hopefully last 2 cards. It needs to be that there's 2 cards left in Paradox's deck. Otherwise, he can't win because he's obviously reduced one of them. So I think it's probably an Arcane Tyrant, although I'm not too sure. And he'll be hoping that that's the Azalina and the Togwaggle somehow as the last 2 cards, and that's his out, unless there's only 1 card left.
Do you feel like Boar's been a little bit unfortunate for this whole game, just considering like the circumstances he's been in? Like, you know, it's one thing to talk about is the fact that he got all these dragons from the start to begin with, and then he gets Hatcher later. And now he hasn't got Hadronox to even supply, like, you know, with the cube, complement it with the cubes, and anything like that, and the naturalizers as well. It's been a bit of a shame, really.
Oh, so there was at least 2 cards left in the deck. But no, he's been a little unfortunate. If those 9 drops are Oakheart and Hadronox instead of the dragons, if they're Dragon Hatcher, if they're anything else really, then he has a better chance. But this is how it goes. No matchup is 100-0. No matchup gives you every time you win it. So it's going to be that sometimes there are games like this where you just don't get the card that you need, and unfortunately for him, it's going to be game, I think.
Imagine if Paradox top decked Hadronox.
He will.
He'll be like, cheers, mate.
Hadronox, eh?
And you was right as well, you know, he does get that Tyrant in the end. Good memory, by the way.
Yeah, it was 3 cards left. It was Arcane Tyrant, Ultimate Infestation, and Blood Mage Thalnos. So I guess Boarcontrol was really, really hoping that the Thalnos was in hand, Thalnos was hit by the Dream Petal, or basically any combination of cards that meant that Paradox couldn't pull off this combo this turn.
Death is eternal.
But unfortunately for him, that's looking like it's curtains.
Pretty much is at this stage. And, you know, we spoke about before how, you know, with Paradox, it's going to be very unfavoured in terms of the deck lineups compared to Boar. And, you know, Boar's an amazing player, probably arguably one of the best in the UK, and if not in one of the best in there, was one of the European players. And so far, it's just not been his ride really in terms of like his card, not his card choices, but in terms of like what he's drawing so far.
Yes, sometimes you have a bad day, but Paradox has been avoiding it. He's been skipping the issue. After he wins his game, he's going to have to pull out the Odd Warrior, the deck that Boarcontrol is here to beat, and that's it. He's gonna have to do that. What he's gone for, actually, and I quite like this, is he's gone for the out where he draws his own Hadronox this turn by killing the Blood Mage Thalnos. So it might come off for him. I don't know if he can revive it quick enough and survive like that. Hasn't worked. I like that though. He's played to an out there that a lot of players wouldn't recognise.
That is true, yeah. Normally, if that kind of situation occurs, you kind of just like, oh, you know what, I'm done pretty much.
Yeah.
Like straight off the bat. But yeah, sadly for him, it does get that Lich King anyway.
Yeah, so he'll play it. He'll try and play out the games. He knows that Paradox has got a naturalised left. He knows that these things can be traded away quite quickly. It might be. It's probably worth playing this game out because it might be that he can stick enough things, or because inside that cube are Sleepy Dragons. It might be that he can stick enough to push damage. Paradox has played the naturalised here. He doesn't really have an answer for this Lich King. It could seriously be that there's a cheeky little win here if Boarcontrol can mount enough pressure quick enough.
Yeah, we both knew it was going to go to fatigue quite quickly, but no, you're right. Of course, with a 4-12 on the board and not really too much to do about it, it's interesting to see. Of course, it's going to decide on what he gets as well. Maybe even like a Death Coil or something you can actually get from that Lich King just to help finish things off could hopefully end the game.
Or anti-magic shell would be quite good here. He's only got the one turn to do it. He's only got one turn to do it because... Oh, there's the Death Coil.
Hello. Not too much of a bad shout, but that Sleepy Dragon for Paradox is... Trying to figure out a way to get out of it, but...
He's going to be one off, I think. Assuming Paradox doesn't armor here, which he probably will, he'd be one off lethal next turn, and then Paradox just passes back to him and he dies from fatigue. So, valiant there. That was a valiant attempt, and unfortunately, it hasn't worked for him, even though he played some really good outs. Really good outs, actually. Yeah,
no, he really did. There was a couple of things, like you mentioned before, where some players just would not see it, you know, and would just be like, you know, they count their dues and just go, okay, right, straight on to the next one.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing to take into account now is the Odd Warrior. Now, I think this is the lineup where you was like, he's going to have a little bit of trouble here. But and you mentioned, of course, before where with Boar, this is the one deck which he needs to like watch out for in that kind of way.
Well, yeah, this is it. This is Paradox has been avoiding the issue. He's been skirting around it, doing what you said at the start. He's just trying to get those wins in early so that he has a bit of confidence or momentum going into this. But these are going to be hard games for him. For example, with his own warrior against that Taunt Druid, he's going to have to look for Stonehills, look for the owls that are in his deck to silence cubes, to silence Hadronox, and he's going to have to, from the Stonehills, try and find Corner Sentry, which summons Raptors for your opponent, which are beasts, which then get summoned back instead of Hadronox when your opponent plays Witching Hour.
Yeah, we're probably going to see stuff like, you know, the Reckless Flurry and, of course, the Brawls. They're going to be in his hands for a very long time just to try and like make it last as long as he can. And it's going to be a long road. I think the reason why he's not played it straight off the bat, because some people may just play the Odd Warrior first just to kind of try and get it out of the way. And if it's a 3-0, it's a 3-0. If it's not, then great. You know, we've taken out the Odd Warrior lineup and we can actually continue on to do the other two and see what happens. But fair play to him. Sometimes it's different people have different ways of doing things. Like, for example, like, you know, some people would rather get those first two decks out of the way so at least they're in their comfort zone with the Odd Warrior when it's 2-0. But sometimes some people want to play Odd Warrior straight off the bat, all three games, just to see if they can just get that lineup done and out of the way.
Yeah, and it's not exactly... I'm talking like it's massively favoured for Boarcontrol. It's not. This, for example, this even lock against the Warrior, it has to draw specific cards. He has to hit, for example, his Giants early, his threats early, in order to put pressure on Paradox. Otherwise Paradox can take his time. That card there, the Super Collider, that's going to stop Boarcontrol having any board of sort of two big bulky minions because it just kills them both. If he need, well, Boarcontrol has two oozes, and he's going to need those as well to sort of cope with that later on.
Yeah, this is it, and it's one good thing to say about Paradox as well is, as you can see there, at least he's got that silence for in case, for example, a Twilight Drake comes out, or a Reaver. Well, Reaver's not going to come out very early, let's be honest. It's going to be quite a while until he taps into that. But he's got that Shield Slam anyway to take out a Giant if things get a little bit out of hand. Or maybe even help towards Drake, but to be fair, you want to use it against a Drake because it's only got 4 attack anyway. But one thing Boar's going to be looking for now is he's looking for those early Giants, those early Drakes. Try and get himself down to that 15 HP, not as fast as possible, but to a certain degree where he can play those Reavers quite early to try and bait out those Brawls and those Flurries.
Yeah, that's what he wants. He wants to put pressure on. If you give this Warrior time, then it doesn't matter that you have a Giant on turn 24 or whatever, because Paradox has 50 armor and 50 health, and he heals for 4 a turn, so he's not actually feeling pressured by it. The Giant that he's just picked up, that's key. You can play that next turn. Unfortunately, it's going to get shield slammed, which is what he doesn't want to see, but that would be the start of where he can gain momentum and potentially use up enough of Paradox's resources that something sticks early and hits him hard, and it has to hit him hard.
It's the way the cookie crumbles, really, isn't it? You know,
that's Jenga.
That is. That is.
It's Jenga.
And yeah, it's like I pointed out at the start, that Shield Slam, if Ball ever gets a Giant out straight off the bat, then he's fine. He's cool, you know. He's makes him save himself for another turn, and it's very, very easy because even look, in some ways you can actually win very quickly, but against Odd Warrior it depends because, you know, you don't use your Brawls so early against like 2, maybe 3 minions in that kind of scenario because it's just a complete waste. But even though it doesn't have a flurry, a shield slam's probably the best option you could actually ask for in this kind of circumstance.
Yeah, and Boarcontrol's not going to like this. He's going to get the bad news, and it's probably going to be, well, a good camera moment. I hope he knows where camera is. I hope he looks directly down the camera lens and goes, "What is this?
Why me? Why?" Oh, I can understand that though. It's a nasty thing to happen to you, and I've seen it a couple of times before. I haven't actually played many Odd Warriors on ladder, but a couple of times I have done. That's happened to me once before, and I'm just like, thought I had a great start, and then I'm just like, nope. But
well,
in all fairness, like with Evenlock, it's you can get. It's very easy to get like 1 or 2 Drakes or Giants down straight away. Normally I always get maybe 1 per game, like depending on like how. Well, it depends how the card draws go really, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what Boarcontrol wants. He wants threats. He wants to kill his opponent as quick as he can. He hasn't got the uses for these super colliders that are going to come out. So, for example, if Boarcontrol does play the other Shroom Brewer next turn, they both just die. And he can't... Then he has to play one thing a turn, and it's going to be slow. It's going to be very slow pressure from Boarcontrol where he might even be thinking about a fatigue game already. He might even be thinking about how he doesn't want to tap too much because this could be going the distance, the proper distance.
Yeah, one of the small signs of that, you saw he kept his Lich King and his Mulligans. So maybe just due to the fact that if he does use his shield slams, his flurries, his brawls quite early, he wants to try and get as much of his Lich King as possible. But I thought that was quite interesting. What do you think of Boar keeping that Lich King in his Mulligan?
I don't know about keeping Lich King. Obviously, Boar's a very stats-based player. He's very in tune and he knows what he's doing. So he's probably looked at the matchups before and he said, I'm keeping Lich King because this card wins me the game. Personally, I think that when you don't have the Drakes and the Giants, it can be difficult. It takes a lot of constitution to keep something that's that expensive. But you have to trust that you're going to tap into it, I guess, and that's what he did. He got 1 Giant. He's been unable to sort of follow up with another one or with a Drake, so the pressure hasn't really been there for him. So it's going to go the distance this game, I think, as a result of that.
It's going to be a long one, so yeah, get your popcorn ready, because I think it's going to be that kind of scenario, like you mentioned before. As you can see now, he's got that Iron Beak out for when he does get that Drake, or maybe if he gets a Reaver later on, but you got to remember he's only on 25 HP as to speak, and he does have that Stone Hill to maybe even get another taunt for later.
Yeah.
A nice big one. Well,
Paradox knows Boarcontrol's text, as he knows the list. There is a Black Knight here, but I don't think you play around Black Knight. I think you shouldn't expect to see this. And it looks like he might not even Black Knight this, waiting for the 6/9 later.
But then again, though, I've seen a lot of even locks the last few weeks actually crop up with Death Knight. Before, it was just a tech card which you'd normally have just to try and play about with some other decks just to counter it. But I think it's a lot more common now in even lock. Do you think?
It's definitely common when Boarcontrol plays even lock in tournaments. I also really like this play because he's played around Super Collider there, which is one of the cards that's going to get him otherwise. So
it's going to get him.
It's going to get him. The Sun Fury Protector is good for that because it obviously taunts the minions either side. It means that they can't kill the middle thing, so the 2 things don't bump into each other that are worth that have better stats and are worth anything. So I like that from him. I like that. He's slowly trying to mount pressure on the board, force Paradox into doing slightly awkward turns. Like, for example, he might even have to brawl here in some worlds, and really push as much damage as he can and get as much value as he can out of every single card that he's playing.
Yeah, it's very difficult because it's like you mentioned, he is making those awkward turns. He doesn't want to use a brawl straight away, but he's got other outs. So at least he managed to take 2 of them down with his weapon anyway. And even if he didn't have that weapon to begin with, he's still got a 3/6 to take out the 4/3 anyway. So at least he could have traded, would have survived a little more with a 3/2, and would have only had 2 other minions to deal with. And that's the other thing as well. How much damage can he take? And I think Paradox is just trying to keep himself at bay, especially with the armor as well. When he uses that Dr. Boom later, it's only every 3 or 4 turns he can get that 7 armor. It's going to be quite difficult for him. So I assume he'll probably be saving for that Dr. Boom later on.
Well, he may find sort of some time where, because the Super Collider hasn't been destroyed, because Boarcontrol hasn't picked up one of 2 oozes that he's got teched into his deck, because he's actually found a way to slow the board down, to slow progress down, he can probably find a chance to play the Dr. Boom and to get rolling with mechs that have rush, with removal and a better hero power on average.
Yeah, that's right. We thought this was going to be a little bit... Well, I think this is probably one of the best matchups for Paradox in terms of actually being able to defeat him, you could say, because Evenlock has its very strong points, especially in the early game, but it has quite good throughout the whole game, like especially at the beginning, and he's dealt with the beginning bit That's the main thing. He hasn't really had to not make any awkward turns or plays, but not use any like very good cards like just straight off the bat, because it's very easy to do that. And then as the game gets drawn on, that's when he starts struggling more and more.
Yeah, Paradox is going for the dynamatic clear here, which happens more often than not, but there is a chance for failure, which we've just seen, which is unlucky for him, actually. That's unlucky. That wasn't likely to happen.
Yeah, that wasn't the best. It was a shame, of course, and you know, we've seen it happen quite a few times in our time. And one thing he's going to realise now, does he want another Stonehill to maybe see if he can get a better taunt card, or maybe go for that Tarlord? But it looks like he will go for another Stonehill anyway, which is completely understandable. He wants something a little bit better. I wouldn't even call it a greedy play anyway, just due to the fact that the other two wasn't really the best.
It's cheap, it fits into your curve, and it can help you find the Dire Horns, which the Dire Horn hatchling obviously gives you Dire Horn Matriarch. Put it in your deck, thicken your deck. If this is going to go to Fatigue, which it's looking likely, or more likely by the second that we're going to get there, as it just goes on and on and on, and Boarcontrol doesn't really get anywhere each time. It's it could be one that you have to take a while on, and you have to take these taunts and look for sort of long-term outs.
One thing I do like about that Reaver play as well is just due to the fact that he could have saved it for later on when he's on 15 HP, but instead it's going to make Paradox think, well, does he have a Gul'dan in his hand already? Like, is he going to try and get it out now, so that at least that way he's going to try and bait out even more brawls? But so far, he's managed to take out perfectly fine, managed to clear the board. But one thing to take into account as well is, if you actually look at Boar's hand, he hasn't really got any other minions. Of course, he wants to save that silence for later. He does have another Reaver, which he can use to turn to 7/7 when he gets to that point. But it seems to still be saving that Lich King.
Yeah, he's still... Well, it's because last turn was the first turn where it was available for him to play, and he was busy having to deal with the board and the pressure that had mounted up against him. He also made what I thought was quite a nice nice play against the Super Collider that Paradox had, where if it attacked with the Super Collider into the Taunt minion, it wouldn't have bumped in to kill the 4/4 because it would have just died. And Paradox saw that, he understood what Boarcontrol was doing, and without hesitation, Owl played the Owl, hit the 4/4 instead, they bump into each other, Super Collider just does work.
And finally, looks like we've actually seen the first Drake of the day. Normally we see it quite early on, but managed to get one on the board anyway, and it seems like he won't be using his AoEs as of yet. He's still got a Defile, still got a Hellfire, but it's more the fact that it's Boar who needs that ball control. It's not really Paradox at this stage. He just needs to try and keep him at bay for as long as he can.
Well, he needs to do more than that. He needs to well, Boarcontrol needs to actually get somewhere. If, for example, they continue to not play any cards, then Boarcontrol's going to lose. So he needs to gain traction and gain sort of momentum here. Holding on to the Black Knight earlier might actually pay off when the big minion that Paradox has picked, the gem-studded Golem from the Stonehill Defender, he's going to play that, and it's going to get Black Knighted quite quickly, and that's what he's thinking about now. He's thinking about the chances that it's there, the chance that he can get a bit blown out here, and he's going to get some, again, bad news.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say he's going to get some bad news straight afterwards. And yeah, and this is just one of the reasons why Death Knight is in so many even deck nowadays, just due to the fact that in this kind of scenario, there's so many big taunt minions out there in so many different matchups. It's something that's very difficult to deal with, and sometimes that one deck, that one tech card is just great to have in your back pocket most of the time. Yeah. But looking at it now, you know, Paradox got a nice board. It won't be very nice when he finds out that Death Knight's going to crop straight up, but look at that, another giant.
Another giant. It could be, and I'll whisper this, but it could be that he's able to find a chance or an opportunity to stick a couple of minions and start pushing. Paradox is only at 23 health, so he's got a long way to go still, but he could find it. He could find a way out here. I think it starts with the Black Knight, though.
None.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's I'll be a little bit worried if that 5/9 was just sitting there, basically. But this is the talking point you mentioned before, is the fact that Boar, you know, he didn't really have many minions to play with. He even had to put one down just to keep him afloat a little bit. But now, look, he's got a giant now, which is top deck. It's a Drake as well on top of that. It's actually got plenty of ways to actually get some more board presence now. So I think the best thing for him is to decide exactly how he wants to go about doing this in terms of how he wants to go.
And Paradox has this risky play here where he can do this. He can use the Super Collider, and I was actually going to suggest trading off his board, but what he can do that's better is he can play the Ziliax and take a nice trade here, keeping 2 3/2s on the board. What this does do is it plays... Oh, or magnetic. But what this does do is this plays a little bit into... a little bit into the ooze that Boarcontrol really should have picked up by now. It's unlucky for him that he hasn't got it.
Yeah, it's been the story, hasn't it? Even in that last game, his Hadronox was right at the very back of the pack. You know, it's just typical. It's one of those things, really. But Boar's like, you know, I'm just going to get my giant out now. I need to get something going here. And it's been a very tough spot. It's been both games now. It's just been really struggling. But does get that ooze like I spoke about before and gets that silence out.
Picks up the ooze. I didn't like Paradox actually doing magnetic there because I thought, oh, it plays into silence and spellstone, whereas having 2/3/2s only really plays into Hellfire, so there's more opportunity for it to be punished. But Boarcontrol got the right cards there, and it's about time. I think he's very, you know, he's been waiting for those for a while. So we'll see. I mean, Paradox still has the Brawl. He still has a Reckless Flurry or 2 in his deck. He still has so many ways to deal with boards and so many ways to deal with minions.
I was going to point it out, but I noticed it straight away. He does have that Shadow Vision as well, so he can, of course, now get another Brawl if he wanted to, on top of that. And with the Shield Slam and Flurry, they're also good, depending on like when he wants to use that Dr. Boom.
Yeah, I think he's going for it straight away. I think he's going to go with the Flurry for a full clear, and Boarcontrol's just running out of stuff. He's played 2 Giants now, 1 Drake. He's played his 4/4. He's played his 6/6, I believe, as well. He's dealt. One of the Super Gliders got full value against him, which isn't ideal, especially when you run the tech cards to try and beat that. So he's making sort of a final gambit now.
Yeah, Paradox has kept him at bay very, very well. He's really thought about how he's going to try and swing into things. And that's one thing to take into account as well. Boar hasn't had his gold down for a good while yet. It might be in the back of the packet again, like the Hadronox was last game. But I think the thing is, at one point, he hasn't really baited enough Brawls to even try and consider it. And Boar's also not going to know exactly what came from that Shadow Vision. He might think, oh, he has a 3rd Brawl now.
No, it was the Flurry.
Oh, no, I know that. But one is Boar's not going to know if it was the 3rd Brawl or not.
Oh, whether there was a 3rd Brawl. No, he used the Flurry. He got the Flurry from the Shadow Visions and used it straight away.
Oh yeah, so I meant in terms of Boar, like he won't know what it was in terms of what he Shadow Visioned.
Okay, yeah, no, sure.
So you know what I mean. Anyway.
But here, Boarcontrol's got the weapon, and Paradox will be thinking about whether he wants to spread wide, play some of the minions that are tech cards that aren't usually effective in this situation. So he's got the Lich King weapon. He won't be expecting that Paradox, so he might play his ooze here and get punished for it. But he might also choose to hold back, play around Hellfire, play around some of the other cards that you'd expect to see at this point, and be a bit patient with this one. Waiting for a good Brawl.
Waiting for a good one.
Waiting for a good Brawl.
Yeah, I don't think he's actually played one as of yet, if I remember rightly. And
no.
Even now, like, you know, Paradox can easily get 3 more taunt cards for later. Now he's got 10 mana. And you're right, it's like Boar's. It's a shame he didn't have these minions a lot earlier to try and at least try and bait these out. But
there's a lovely turn here where Boarcontrol sat there and he's thinking, is this eye for an eye? Am I going to die if I hit him with this 8/8? Yeah,
he's a little bit worried about it. This could be like Paradox's saving grace here.
He's terrified about the eye for an eye, and rightly so, right? He's procced almost every, or he's done an attack that procs every other secret. It's definitely either Repentance or eye for an eye at this point. He probably should want to play a minion first to play around that, but the Brawl will come down and it'll absolutely wreck his board.
But decides to play it safe anyway. You're definitely right. I think he's worried about it to beyond belief. And
well, the Hellfire was also a play around eye for an eye. He played it to deal 3 damage instead of 8. But what it's done is it's weakened his own board state and made things a bit tricky for him.
Another thing to take into account as well now is, of course, he's got that Reaver, so at least he can get that down to get some more taunt down on the board. He's got another Drake as well, and now he's got a Geist on top of that. But won't be too much as of use. I think he does have that 2nd Shield Slam somewhere. But, of course, with that Geist, it stops Paradox from getting those 3 taunts for later on.
Yeah, this is getting to the nitty-gritty sort of turns now, where Boarcontrol only has 8 health. Things are looking a bit sort of sketchy for him, but he knows that Paradox can only really do damage to him if he has board or if he has the Dr. Boom hero power that deals 3 damage. So he'll be trying his best to just have a minion or 1 or 2 minions. He's seen both Super Gliders. He knows that there's not really going to be that much that damages him. And the only things he has to play around are Brawl and Reckless Flurry, which the Corner Sentry makes this Brawl absurd. Far, far better.
It's going to be loving life now, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, you know, it's been quite late in the game. I did mention before, right at the beginning, he'll be saving those Brawls and those Flurries and those Shield Slams, etc., right sort of, not the very end, but quite into the late game as we see. And
so Lich King here.
What perfect time to use it.
This is it. This is where the Lich King survives. Oh, first out.
You jinxed it. Play that. But in that kind of percentage chance, we knew it was going to be a 1-1. But, you know, I've seen it before where one of the players, there was 7 minions on their board. And I think it was Kat, actually, who had only 1 minion. It was actually her minion who actually survived in a 12.5% chance. So, but it's like I mentioned before, we do cast some weird games, and that wouldn't surprise me. The Lich King stayed alive, in all fairness.
So we're down to another threat, and Paradox has to find another answer. And the Geist has come down, which has made it very unlikely that, well, it's made it that there's no more shield slams as well in the deck. It's going to come down to the wire, I believe. It's going to be a very close one, this.
No, you're right. It's definitely going to come to fatigue. And you mentioned that off the bat as well, Board could actually be planning this just due to the fact that he didn't really have many minions to play with at the beginning. You know, I had that Giant, but he had to use like a 4/4 Reaver just to kind of just get some kind of ball control here. And it's been a real struggle and a real testament to him, because it's a really horrible thing that when you're actually playing as even log, when you've got nothing to play with, because the whole point of your job against Odd Warrior is to just keep something afloat all the time, get something there, just some kind of presence, and he's just not had that at all.
Well, he can Gul'dan. He's finally picked it up. It's probably about card 25 for him, but he's finally got the Death Knight. It's going to create a board which we can see can't be cleared. We know that we can see from our point of view that Paradox doesn't actually have a way to deal with this, and he'll be hoping the same. Boarcontrol will be very much hoping that there's no way Paradox has the second Brawl here, or has one of his 2 Reckless Flurries that remain in the deck.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to take into account as well, is the fact that, well, he has a Flurry.
Yeah,
That'll do the
he's
job,
just got the Flurry, he's got the Dr. Boom, that's 7 armor, that's Flurry, that's another board clear.
Oh, dearie me, we literally just spoke about that as well. It's like he hasn't really got many answers to that apart from trading with the 2/4, but even then that would have been way too late. But you know,
well, this is where it gets intense. Now Boarcontrol can do 8 damage this turn. He can use the weapon, he can use the hero power, or he can play some minions. It's probably better to play some minions, I think. And he can push for this lethal. We can push for this surprise lethal to take this to an extra game. I mean, Paradox is going to need to draw something here that's going to help him out, and I don't think that does it. I don't think that does the business.
Yeah, he hasn't even really got an answer at this stage, and yeah, you're keeping like death in the face at the moment. Of course, with that 8 damage on board and with his hero power and his Hellfire, and that's 14 straight away. So if he doesn't find an answer this turn, this could be a game for Board.
Yeah, I think it's looking that way. I think it's looking like Boarcontrol is going to take this quite long fought game where he's played very patiently. He's played around Super Collider when he can, because he didn't have those oozes, and with bad players, for example, you might have that might have tilted them or freaked them out, and they'd have started playing worse. And he's found a way. He's found a way to potentially get there after playing threat after threat after threat.
Yeah, Paradox is going to know that he's only used 1 Hellfire, and that hero power, it's going to be a bit of a pain for him at this stage. And seeing it now, at least he's got something just to kind of hold him at bay for the time being.
Well, it won't do, I don't think. I think that's game for Boarcontrol. He just Spellstones to 2/4, plays Hellfire, Spellstones to 2/4, attacks with his 2 minions, plays Hellfire, hero powers to face, and that's game. Or Obliterate if you fancy it. Either way.
He just wanted to be snazzy.
He just wanted to show that he had the card.
And just like that, we mentioned before that, you know, he's got 14 damage there from the Hellfire, from the hero power, and of course from those 2 minions. So Boar finally takes that first game, but Paradox has got a long road.
It's a long road. This is going to be Odd Warrior games that go a long way.
And a long time.
A long time.
But no, I think the one thing to take into account with that Evenlock is the fact that if he had some of those decks a lot earlier, not those, sorry, those minions a lot earlier in that kind of case, you know, that could have been not a different story, but it could have got things done a lot quicker. That game would have been a lot quicker. But the fact that he had to go to fatigue just due to what he had in his hand, which was completely fair enough, you know, even getting Gul'dan at like card 25, Haginox would have been like 28 to 30 at that stage as well. It's hopefully you actually get a little bit more luck with the card.
It shows his quality as a player, where he's actually gone for a bathroom break. You can see him walking off behind Paradox there. But it shows his quality as a player. It shows that what he's done is he's not been tilted like some of us would be. He's kept his head, and although Gul'dan was the last card, or not the last card, but very, very bottom of the deck, he's just played to it. He's played to his outs. He's played slowly. He's played around Super Collider. He's got the tech card eventually, and he's played it well. He held the Black Knight on that turn when potentially I might have played it because I'm not very good or whatever, and it's paid dividends for him. It's some very good decision making there that's actually had him in that position to win the game at the end.
Well, let's talk about what's left so far for Paradox. His next go-to, you could say. So, of course, Paradox has got his Odd Warrior left, but he's now got to try and find a way through this Taunt Druid and his Death Roll Hunter. Now, we know it's unfavoured. We know that. We spoke about that, and we're just like, from the start, Paradox is going to have a bit of trouble once he hits that 2-0. But what's the best matchup for him between those two decks, or is it not really too much difference?
So I'm going to say that the Druid for him is just tough. Like, that is a tough matchup that everything needs to go right for him to win. The Hunter, on the other hand, is a lot more, it's easier to manipulate your Super Collider in that matchup, which is probably a very key card. And you can use it to take out multiple 5/5s or multiple threats. You have owls for the cubes. You have ways to deal with what he can potentially do that don't have you Super Colliding into a 4-12, for example, because obviously if you do that, they bump into each other, but nothing actually dies, which is the case with the Druid. So I think his best bet is the Hunter, but there are some really long odds as well of him getting the win with against the Druid.
Yeah, against the Druid, I feel like, even with that Odd Warrior, it's kind of like, I hate to say it, but delaying the inevitable in some ways, because at some stage, you might even get lucky, but even then it has to be a huge amount. And do you sometimes feel like maybe the best matchup for him was that even lock he just lost to?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought at times there was it was definitely looking favoured for him. He'd got both Super Colliders, and he'd got so much value out the first one before Boar had even got the chance to play the Ooze against him, and then the second one was looking like it was about to run riot as well. It was looking very good for him. Unfortunately, he got sort of rubbish cards from his Elise pack, which, well, aside from the Shadow Visions, which was pretty crucial.
Yeah, you can't really complain about that.
Yeah.
Really, could you? Yeah, getting another spell just to at least try and delay him further. But I think we can see from the screen there, that's going to be a bit of Death Rattle Hunter. So it looks like, however this game's going to go, if Boar takes this, he can easily take that game 5 as well. But if he doesn't, then Paradox could, of course, just go away for this with a 3-1 victory here in the first series of the day.
So one of the ways that you win as the Warrior in this matchup is you hope they don't have Deathstalker Rexar in their opening hand, because that's infinite value. As I said earlier, you just create a minion every turn, and you play a minion every turn, and it doesn't cost any cards in your deck. Unfortunately for Boarcontrol, or unfortunately for Paradox, Boarcontrol's got it, which is fair enough. He didn't have Hadronox in the top 20 or 200 cards last time.
He deserves it, yeah.
He deserves it
sometimes. Good clap for that, yeah. Because he does, it's one of those situations really where you think, well, you know what, he had Hadronox between 28 and 30, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and then everyone was 25, I think you mentioned roughly. Yeah. And he deserves a little bit of credit.
Sometimes you get the card you want when you want it, right?
That is right, but that never happens to me. Which is why we're both
You've got to play more than one game.
This is one of those things, really. But you know what? That's why we're casting their playing. But I think that's, like you mentioned before, as well. With Boar, it's like, that's why he's arguably one of the top players in UK. It doesn't matter what he has or what he needs to do. He can deal with it perfectly fine, and he just seems to be able to win some of these games no problem.
Yeah, and he's probably going to win this one. I don't want to call it early. I don't want to say that it's game over already, but I think what will happen is we'll get to turn 6. We'll see Paradox's reaction to the Death Knight when it comes down, and that will be very telling of how the rest of the game will go from that point. And Paradox's way out is for him to get sort of, I think it's to do with either using this MC tech that he already has in his hand to sort of great effect, being able to pull potentially something that's been cubed or some big value minion, or to pressure Boarcontrol down so quickly that he wins before Boarcontrol can start to just grind the game out with the Deathstalker Rexar, which isn't very likely with the Warrior, which is why the Warrior's unfavoured.
Yeah, even in this matchup as well, he does have one of his owls straight off the bat, but even then he wants to save it for if he cubes an egg in future or anything like that. But we haven't seen any from Boar so far, especially in his hand, so Paradox is quite lucky in that respect. Yeah,
well, he's not on a cube and egg plan, I think, at the moment. I think at the moment he's on a, let's make a big beast every turn. Let's go and start crafting beasts.
Let's take the mickey a little bit. let's get that reverse sweep going pretty much.
That's what he's going for here, and I think we're going to see quite a long drawn out game here that Boarcontrol just dominates from start to finish, which is no comment on Paradox or his ability. It's just the way this matchup goes, I think.
So we won't see a dab. That's a shame.
No dabs yet. But he didn't even dab when he top deck lethal in the first game.
Mate, I'll be good at left, right, and centre.
That's the best time to dab.
It would have been especially, but yeah, no, I think you're right. It's not delaying inevitable like it's Taunt Druid. He does have a lot better chance in this matchup, but I feel like that even lot last game was kind of like his opportunity. It's either a 3-0 or it gets a reverse sweep. But I'm not going to call him out yet because, like I said, we've seen a few weird things in
for sure. it could be that, you know, Boarcontrol has some sort of technical issue, maybe. I fancy the technical issue as a good way for Boarcontrol to lose this game. There's also obviously the chance that Paradox can take board control by playing the Dr. Boom that's in the far left of his hand early this game, using the mechs as rush to leverage some board position and to push and to create damage, because the Hunter deck doesn't have AoEs. It's 2 removal cards and the 2 flanking strikes that are in his hand at the moment, and that's it. He's got Hunter's Mark that requires other tools to deal with. It's not like there's much in the way of board clear or removal in the Hunter deck.
When that first Spider-Man must get taken out straight away, which is good, so that hour's nice, safe, can do it perfectly fine, but like you mentioned before, it doesn't have that hero power, will be spamming out those minions.
Paradox just went to his game on face.
He has, yeah.
He winced.
It's like, I've got this now. I've got this.
He's settling in. He knows that this is going to be a long game where he really needs Boarcontrol to make mistakes in order to win from here on out, I think.
This is it, pretty much. Yeah, he has to make some big ones, if that. But it's kind of like similar to the odd Pally, you know, just keep spamming that hero power until you get a W, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and Paradox probably wants to put on pressure. Like, forgo the hero power, play the biggest minion you can, play the best minions you can. His hand isn't good for that, but his deck isn't good for that. He needs to find a way. And I think Boom, that's a way you start doing that, because if you can get Discover a Mech every turn, or not every turn, but most turns, that gives you a way to fight for board as well, and to potentially also have minions that are better than his beast minions.
So he's looking at the options here to see exactly what he can do, and not too much at this stage in terms of what he actually wants, but let's see what Paradox has got here. So he still has that MC, which, let's be honest, Boar's going to probably stay out of range for that the entire time anyway. And does have that Dr. Boom, of course, to try and play later on. He's got Shield Slam to deal with any threats he could deal with. But the thing is, though, Boar can just keep bringing out these minions constantly, one after the other, and just make Paradox run out of resources. So Paradox needs to try and see if there's any way he can try and get that board.
I think Boarcontrol might even be taking the nick here. He's picked an Angry Chicken.
Well, you do get +5 if he gets damaged, but that's about it, really.
And he's obviously looking to set up here so that he can hero power or not hero power, so he can use his weapon to kill the 5/4 after it's traded next turn, save his flanking strikes, and fit in mana so that he can hero power afterwards. Meanwhile, Paradox is sat here thinking, I need to win. How do I put as many stats on the board as possible? I'll play a Stonehill, and I'll pick the biggest thing I can find. Damage Stegodon. That's big. It's a pretty big boy. I'd pick that.
Yeah, I would. Well, not if I say the bigger the better, isn't it? So, of course, he will be going for that 5/12 anyway. But the great thing as well, he doesn't have the Death Knight to do it. Like
he's picked Wax Element.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
The smallest boy available he's picked, which I don't like. I prefer him to potentially play Boom there as well. If he'd have played Boom, it would have given him, as I said, it got his hero power rolling, and that's probably his out. It's probably how he, finds mechs and gets going.
You seem pretty distraught and sad about that. You okay?
I just want to see him. I just want to see him give himself a fair chance. I want to see him play to his outs.
That's fair enough. I'm just looking out for you. It's fine.
It's okay.
Don't worry. But in this stage, it's just going to keep happening now. But the good thing is, Paradox got something going. But this is the thing. How long is it going to last?
And that pick up there. So Paradox built his decks in a way that he wanted to target Token Druid. So his Warrior deck, for example, has double Abomination in it. He's just running 2 Abominations because it deals with a board of 1/1s that have buffs on them, and then you can obviously Brawl or Flurry the Death Rattle away without them attacking the face. Unfortunately, there's only 1 Token Druid in this tournament.
I love how, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I mentioned him that it's been nothing but Token Druids, and now there's just 1. So yeah, it's not going to be too much of a big deal. I've played a lot of Token before, and against Odd Warrior, yeah, it's not, not the best of things to do. It's I don't have the greatest of times in that retrospect, but it's going to be a little rungy here for Paradox, but still got his minions on the board anyway. But yeah, it's like I mentioned before, how long is it going to last?
He needs more of them. The Abomination will help for that. It's a minion and it deals damage to his opponent. That's going to work for him, I hope. Right now, it looks like Boarcontrol's taking back board control, which is a shame.
I know what he did there.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
No one's done that before in a cast.
No, never. No, not until today.
Oh.
But do you know what? We're talking about those Angry Chickens where I was saying those +5s could potentially help. We could actually, but we know what's going to happen.
Suddenly Angry Chicken's looking nasty, isn't it?
I think this is the first time I've ever seen Angry Chicken actually get to use, but 3 of them, okay, that's fair play.
Boarcontrol's also sort of hovering over it, I think, reading the text, like, how much attack does this... Why has this not been played before? This gets so much attack.
That's slightly in retrospect, but of course it will be taking him out anyway. We knew he had plenty of advances. He's got so many AoEs, it's okay, but Boar's doing a good job at the moment. He's making sure that he uses every possible, not just spell, but any kind of minis obstacles. He gets the 5 damage done from their split. And he's going to run out of options eventually at some point.
He's going to run out of options eventually, but it's going to be a long time in the future, I'm afraid. Boarcontrol is going to build a beast every turn. He's going to pick stuff that's good. For example, here, the charge or the rush are both quite good options. He's picked an owl as well to potentially deal with the abomination that he is semi-aware of. He knows it's there. He's a bit worried, I guess, about it at times. And he's just going to keep going. He's just going to keep going. Infinite value every turn, grinding away at Paradox, while Paradox's health very, very, very slowly chips down.
The main thing is Boart was smiling. He's just like, you know what, I can actually play this. Do you know what? Because I can at this point. That's like the worst thing about this matchup is the fact that, you know, normally he wants to save those kind of spells for later on in case Paradox gets some kind of board, but he's not going to. This is it.
This is the casual's dream. You play your Hunter deck against a slow Warrior deck. You just get to press that button every turn and build a beast. What wonders can you find?
Well, we're about to find out again, aren't we? To see exactly what he's going to do.
Oh, I could pick Arthas and get a random card. It's just going to be a...
just get a Death Knight just to make it even more of a pain, so that if he stone heals later on and gets another decent taunt, then it's just going to make life a little bit worse for him.
Just keeps going. He's actually taken the Bear Shark there, which is probably a better pick than being greedy and taking a 4-mana 2/2. Because this can't die. This won't be... Shield Slam can't hit this. What Paradox can do is he can save his Faceless Manipulator and use that effectively. But it's just going to be too much, I think.
Yeah, this is the problem as well. If he does use a Stone Hill later on and then gets a decent taunt card out of it, he can face a slip, but even by then it might just be too much. Ball might have either too much presence on the board, he might have something just to kind of take it out simply for Hunter's Mark or anything like that. It's there's so many ways around it. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, Board's actually what he's doing at the moment. He's just deciding which card to play. There are so many cards and he's got so many options and he can keep going on for so long that he can just do whatever he wants. I like this. What this means is that if Paradox does actually try and get on the board and he does actually try and sort of do things to Boarcontrol, Boarcontrol has the ability to pop his cube and to pop some of his spider bombs and kill the minions. It also sort of forces Paradox to use his owl, which is a worry, I imagine. Because when you build a beast, if you start with a low-cost beast and then you add a load of stats to it, the owl will remove those stats and go back to the original stats of the beast that you had. Oh, no, it won't. It's a lie. It won't do that at all. It will just remove effects.
You never used to lie to me.
No, sorry.
You used to be quite truthful.
No, I was just testing you there.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm a truthful guy.
The voice in my head went off. It was like, that's not true.
It was, the voices in my head. But no, it's this retrospect, yeah, like, you know, you could use that out just to stop things from happening. I can understand why you cubed a Spider-Bomb, because at least that way make life for Paradox a little bit worse, but you know what, he's going to get that planted down anyway, just to make sure he's going to have none of that, clean up the cube. But, you know, still, Boar's hands is basically like a kid in a candy store at the moment.
Oh yeah, he's got everything. I was wondering actually that turn whether Paradox could have gone for a Faceless Manipulator and an owl there. Just get your own cube with your own 2/2s that kill stuff inside them. It would have been countered by Boarcontrol because you can see he's already got at least one owl effect in his hand. But it would have been a nice, tidy play from Paradox.
And I've just seen a fledgling, I think that is now, which is no surprise about 2/6. That's going to be, yeah, just another mini to deal with now. And Boar at this stage just loving life, and it was very cheap.
It cost him no cards at all. He draws a card, but he's like, I don't need cards. I've got this great hero power. What Paradox could do, this is another way that maybe he can win, that he might be looking towards, is he might wait until Boarcontrol's got a load of really good beasts in hand and just play Azalina to copy them all so that he can try and fight for board. That works best if he already has board control. So he's got this 6/7 now, which is untargetable. The Spider Bomb would have been good against that. And he can potentially swing the board in his favour so that when he does play the Azalina, he has tempo every turn, playing the big threat first, hopefully killing Boarcontrol. We can see that he's just going to probably owl this Hunter's Market, take board back. But it's a nice thought. It's a nice way that you can also win, playing to your outs.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You know, I know it's nice that you're trying to give him a chance and stuff. Yeah. Trying to show that it's got that percentage. It may be small, but at the end of the day, you know, trying to find all the outs he can to try and make something out of this. But at this point in time, he's got so many minions at this point in his hand. He's got so many options, so many ways to even stop Paradox, it's just still looking likely.
Yeah, and he's got 27 health as well, so it's not like Paradox can really rush him down at the moment. He's got time and he's got value, and those are two very, very important things.
I think value's an understatement.
He's got some value in his hand. He's got a couple of cards that he can play.
He's just throwing value left, right, and centre, really, isn't he? It's just, you can't stop this man.
No, in fact, he's having to play cards before he builds a beast because of how many cards he has in hand. He's got to play something here or he'll burn a card if he feels so inclined.
Yeah, and even then, straight after this, he can adapt the Owl, or maybe in the MC tech, straight after Paradox's turn, just to make things even worse for him.
Yeah, you've got to wonder what Paradox is thinking right now. Is he thinking that he could win? Is he still sort of working out his outs and how to get through this game?
He has to. There's literally no other way. Against the Taunt Druid, we could see something even worse unless Ball gets very, very unlucky with the kind of situation he'll go in. But so Paradox, I feel like, needs to win this game 4. If he doesn't, it's just going to things will get worse and worse as each game goes by. Like game 5 is going to be a real struggle, and we both know that.
Yeah, from experience, we not a favoured matchup, that one either. So he's probably collecting his thoughts. He's probably thinking, "Dear diary, today I went 2-0 up against Boarcontrol. I had a good run. I enjoyed my time, but I think I peaked too early."
Yeah, yours truly, Odd Warrior. Yeah, it's not his cup of tea, is it? In all fairness, the thing is, I love Odd Warrior. It's such a good deck, but against matchups like this, it's either one way or the other. You never get like a purgatory in between kind of moment with these kind of matchups. It's a bit of a pain. But even Boar, like you saw with his mulligan earlier, you know, with spells to get his 3/3 wolves up, you know, he kept his hero power. He kept his hero power as well, just because of the fact that he knew that it's going to get to this stage, and he might just get all the minions out early, because he probably thought to himself, well, had Hadronauts card 28, 30, had the other thing card 25. Do you know what? I'll probably get hero power, probably card 30 as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Thought, you know what? I'm
keep it in your mulligan, win
anyway.
the game.
This is it.
So yeah, it's pretty simple like that. If you get the card that wins you the game, and that's what the Death Knights are in general. There's so many of them that have such powerful effects. Like we even saw it in the Even Lock game just before. The effect was so powerful that even when it was so late in the game, it turned the tide. And although Paradox had the clear, he had the armor up with the Doctor Boom and the flurry, it meant that he didn't have armor gaining abilities anymore, and suddenly it all went wrong for him, which is the way the cookie crumbles. That's Jenga.
Yeah, we said that twice, haven't we?
I'm trying to bring That's Jenga back. It's
that's Jenga.
Yeah. So saying that's the way the cookie crumbles is long. No one likes that. It's
overused.
It's overused.
Yeah.
Whereas That's Jenga, far better. Everyone knows exactly what you mean as well. Everyone's played Jenga.
I used to play Jenga. Yeah, like me. I mean. Trying to play it, but I get beaten by her every time, so I'm just like, I'm not playing anymore. Like I know my credit's due, so.
And you're rubbish at Jenga.
Yeah.
What are you good at?
I'm good at things which is not involved in Jenga and bricks and blocks and stuff.
Oh, so Lego was out of the question as well for you then?
Nah, back in the day I was a Connects man.
A Connects man?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Or Lego, like.
I don't know if we can cast any more together. Connects.
Shall I just go off?
You could come back in 20 minutes and Boarcontrol would still be here thinking, how do I win this game that I've won? How do I get Paradox to concede?
I'll just come back with like a massive Lego set or something. I've just built like a massive thing with like Jenga blocks out of Lego.
I think what he's thinking about is he's just thinking about what cards he actually wants to play, like how he can win this as quickly as possible, because fatigue will also be an issue for the players. We mentioned yesterday, Boarcontrol and Green Sheep and Toast, they were in their hotel room about 2 in the morning playing HGG tournaments to try and get to BlizzCon.
Oh, okay. So this could actually change a little bit now that he's got that cube. You know, there's a 1 in 4 chance they managed to get that. And of course, he faces it on top of it. So, you know, we were taking the mickey a little bit, but you know what? This is completely changed in some ways.
That's come in just as I said that fatigue is an issue. As soon as I say that fatigue's a problem, Boarcontrol plays into the MC tech and he gets super punished by it, which is, well, not good for him, I'll tell you that.
Oh, imagine being in like a really nice, comfortable spot, just to be told, like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah, sorry, you've played into the only way you lose the game.
Yeah.
What a mistake.
Oh, because it's a very difficult decision to make. Like, you know, that would have been one of his very few chances to use that MC tech, but for 1 in 4 to get that cube and faceless it on top of it now, and manage to save his brawl as well and his flurry, he doesn't even need to use that either, so he couldn't ask for a better spot. He couldn't ask for a better time to MC, really, and to get that cube as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, loving life.
So Boarcontrol now, he's searching for actual combos. He's looking for owl and silence effects out of the hero power. He's also looking for bloat bat and poison, so he can just pop in a bloat bat, the death rattle goes off, it deals damage, and because it's got poison, anytime it deals damage, the minion dies, just clears the board. So that's what he'll be looking for now, because that's what he needs. Because he played into the one thing. He could have taken so long over this game.
He could have just chilled, had 3 minions on the board the whole time, ignore MC, he knows he's had it, he's played this deck enough times, and just thought to himself, well, you know what, things should be okay, should be fine,
yeah.
Shouldn't be any kind of problem. But the fact that that one tiny mistake could actually cost him this, and we've just been sitting there thinking, like, when's game 5 happening?
Yeah.
Makes us look bad as well, to be fair.
No, I think it's a fair enough criticism, because if you're playing this game and you're fresh and you're not tired, and I just think that there's no way you ever say, so you say to yourself, you look at the deck list and you say, how can I lose? And the way you lose is to MC Tech stealing your cube. So you can if you want just play into MC Tech, but just not cube things, because again, you can sort of deal with that if you have enough board control, if you have 5 or so minions. And the other way that he loses is if something that's really, really high in value gets faceless, which happened alongside the MC Tech, unfortunately for him. So yeah, it's not gone well for him there. It's a bad time, bad couple of turns, which you'll look back on and think that didn't need to do that, did I? Didn't need to make that happen.
Feels bad, man. It's just like, it's literally one of those in a nutshell. It's like, you hate to see it happen, and you have. And I think to myself, every time I've seen this season, I've seen an MC Tech played, or a brawl, or anything like that, you know, I always see the very, very unfavoured situation happen. If it's a 12.5%, in that case 25, and yeah, look how things change over now.
It's not unlikely to happen either. A 25%er, they happen. Especially if you played, this is game 4 of Hearthstone. You're bound to eventually sort of, run into a bit of bad luck. But now he has to work his way out of this. He has to put a lot of effort into making this game his again.
Yeah, I think he does have that hunter's mark still. He's had that since the beginning. Wouldn't be a bad time to use it now, to be fair. No. But he hasn't even got his weapon anymore to even trade off. And he's got an MC Tech of his own now.
He's got his own MC Tech. He already played one for Tempo, so that's quite a good draw. And something that Paradox would have thought about, but would have thought, there's so many cards left in the deck, I don't need to play around this. So what Boarcontrol can do is he can come up with a way to kill one of these taunt minions. Depending on what he fancies, he can either say that, I'd rather steal the 12-6 or kill the 12-6. And then he can try and steal one of his cubes back, which would, which would benefit him massively in this game. Yeah,
it'll help him a little bit, won't he?
Definitely.
If he gets that Stonehill or anything like that, he's going to be in a bit of a work. Oh. He takes the worst minion out of the 4s. So Paradox, he gets the best out of 4, and Boar gets the worst. You hate to see it happen, pretty much.
It's a situation of his own doing, I'm afraid.
It is, yeah. It's put it on himself.
Still no dab though. We're so close. He did a little cheer, he did a fist pump.
He was close, you saw it happening.
I don't even know why I want him to dab. It's so 2012 dabbing. It's not at all a relevant thing these days, is it? Or is it? I don't know. I'm not.
See, I'm not down with the kids, you see. I'm 30, you know. It's like, I don't know what's going on half the time, let alone whatever. But you should know. You're younger than me.
Oh, yeah, the kids these days, they love dabbing, eh?
Oh dear me, and even now he's still having an issue. I still can't believe he got MC and took the 1-2. Even Stonehill defended it fair enough, like, you know, it's only a 1-4, so he's got to do absolutely nothing. But to see that happen as well, it's very curious to see what he'll say about it if he does take this game.
If he does take this game.
Yeah, I'm still saying if, because you just don't know what's going to happen in this kind of stage.
Yeah, I think he's desperate now for outs. He's looking for Poisonous, he's looking for Bloatbat. He wants to be able to clear some really, really tricky boards, because it has just gone wrong for him. It has just gone wrong.
And he hasn't had any hours in his hero power. I don't know if he's maybe had one earlier, but yeah, and this is obviously, well, be very useful now. Don't get me wrong, but even at this point in time, hasn't had any when he most needs it, and he knows that as well.
Yeah, I think the cubes. He's starting to feel bad about the cubes. He's got very little in the way of board clears and AoEs, as we said earlier, and that's one way he loses. By Paradox just having boards that he can't remove as well. And he's done that by taking the board that Boarcontrol set up, unfortunately. Well, for one of them.
But even then, like, once his cubes are done, that's it really for him. And I'm not sure what else he can do at this stage. Like, you know, Paradox has got all the answers in terms of what he wants to do to keep Boar back in with whatever minions he puts on the board. You know, he still has that shield slam, does have that flurry, and it's, you know, so many outs for him as well to at least try and push him back, and, you know, this could be it.
It's getting late. It's
Yeah, it's half 2.
It's half 2. Falcone's already arrived.
He's just arrived.
Honestly, Falcone didn't even need to come back in time for the tournament today. He could have waited until tomorrow at this rate. The speed this is taking.
This is it, pretty much, yeah, you know.
Because Boarcontrol here, he's digging himself out of the hole. He's healing for 14 and going. He's still going. And that's what he's got to do. He's got to grind this out harder than he's ever ground out a game before. Because he's used the spider bombs and he's used some of these cards that would have helped him now. And it's not a mistake to have used them. It's just something that that now very relevant, because what's inside these cubes is 7/4 stealth minions as well.
You know, for Odd Warriors, fair enough, they've got so many options of clearing the board, but when he's in this position and you've got some decent minions cubed on the board at this stage, there's no reason, there's no way backing out from it very much. You know the horrible situation you're in, and unless he gets an hour or something just to keep him at back, then that could be it.
Yeah, it's looking that way. He's desperate for his bloat bat. He's desperate for his bloat bat and his poison. And he's not getting it at all every time. He's got poison this time on a Divine Shield, which is going to help him. But he's just going to get shield slammed away. And Paradox is just going to develop onto the board even harder with, well, with whatever he wants, really. He probably just plays the Abomination as just extra damage so that he can actually win next turn. Set up a lethal, for example.
I just feel like, you know, it's like I said before, it's like a kid in the candy shop, but it's like someone's stole his sweets. It's literally that kind of circumstance at this stage.
So yeah, he's gonna shield slam this. He's gonna play the Abomination, ship it all face, put Boarcontrol down to 7 health, and then next turn it's basically curtains. It's so close to over already, and I was hoping this would go to fatigue and Boarcontrol would just slowly play. Oh,
kind of what we were expecting as well. We thought it could be away, but even then we were actually discussing what he could be doing for the next game and all that stuff. But
yeah,
we won't be.
Well, no, not now. Look at this board. Boarcontrol can't deal with this. He's used his spider bombs. He's used his cubes. He's got 2 Terrascale Stalkers that don't actually trigger anything meaningful. It's an unfortunate way to go down, I think.
And what a first series as well, you know. It was so unlikely for him to Paradox to come back in this. He knew that, we all knew that as well, and of course I'm sure the chat saw in terms of exactly how this is going to position himself. And, you know, we made that assumption. Could go to game 5, but that one little mistake of MC Tech in that cube and getting the 2/7/4s out just shows what can happen.
Yeah.
You know, anything can happen in Hearthstone. And Paradox does take that first series 3-1 over Boar in an unlikely, very unfavoured matchup, but managed to take it in the end.
Yeah, I thought that he played it quite well. He knew what his outs were, and at the end of the day, I think that one error where Boarcontrol potentially played a little bit too hard into the face of his manipulator or the MC Tech has cost him there quite badly.
It's quite funny as well, because with Paradox, he still can't believe it. He's still laughing in his chair, basically. But yeah, you know what? I knew that.
Wow, boys. Well, there we have it. The upset we didn't really expect. Leroy, you thought there was potential for it, and it's come true. Where'd you get the foresight for that one from?
That's just who I am. I'm just very, very good at predicting Hearthstone winners.
Part of that Leroy magic, as you can see. He does also do parties for children and families. He doubles up as a magician.
Yes. Obviously. I don't have any tricks yet. I'm still learning, but I've got the look, and that's what matters.
That is what matters, really. That's what you need. And Paradox had the look of an absolute lunatic when it comes to being able to dish out cards and deal damage. And that's just what he did. He locked it down. A huge series. It seemed like there was almost the potential for the reverse sweep there, and that has gone out of the window. A 3-1 in favour of Paradox. And break this down for me, Harry.
It's so hard to say. Of course, you know, with Paradox, he knew the only thing in his way was with that Odd Warrior. He got the first 2 games out of the way perfectly fine, and we did think to ourselves, if he played against that Evenlock with the Odd Warrior, that is his best option to actually take the series 3-0. But when he lost against that Evenlock, we were discussing it beforehand, weren't we? We were saying, you know, Death Rattle Hunter in that respect, very difficult for the Odd Warrior matchup, but the Taunt Druid is the absolute worst. If anyone plays that matchup, I'm sure they know it's one of the worst feelings. But normally in that last match, you'd normally see the Hunter just spamming the hero power, and just keep getting as minions on the board, just keep flooding it as much as you can until it runs out of spells, one of any AoE, for example, and just runs out of ideas, and eventually Paradox does tap out. But that cube getting taken straight like that, you know, just kind of said it all, really.
Threw it all away. It turned the game on its head, and suddenly Paradox had a board that Boarcontrol couldn't deal with, and that was the out. That was the sort of thing we were talking about before the series, where we said that Paradox needs to sort of understand how he's going to win the games and sort of find the outs that he can that get him there, even though they are low percentage chances. And it's happened. You know, it's only a 25% chance to steal the cube. It's only a certain small chance that he gets the faceless at the right time and he has these cards that all line up. But they're there. And when they're there and he plays towards those outs, they work out perfectly.
And that's the other thing to take into consideration as well. It's just a shame that MCs gets a cube, faces it, job done. He uses one, gets a 1-2 minion, gets nothing out of it. It was a real shame. But the thing is that anyone going into that loser bracket now is going to be scared because, like I said, Boar is a top player. Doesn't matter how bad the draw is, anything like that for him, always somehow comes out on top. But that was very unfortunate. And, you know, a lot of people are going to be watching that game thinking, I don't really fancy going to the loser bracket right now.
No, not really. We do actually have how that has affected the bracket as well, so we can have a quick look at that. Because Boarcontrol, the man that in reality has been touted as one of the bigger dogs here, he's definitely got a lot of history behind him, has fallen short. Paradox has moved on forward. What do you think about that now, how the bracket is shaping up, boys? Because that actually sets us up for some pretty interesting matchups when we get into the position of Paradox versus either Dead Draw or Falcone. That one could be quite spicy, couldn't it, Leroy? So
Falcone is going to be licking his lips at the prospect of getting ball control now because he's got the lineup that probably does quite well against him, or is a lineup that's better than Dead Draw's lineup, because Dead Draw lineup will just be very hard. So Falcone, he can just get through, and even if he loses, he can get ball control and still beat him, which is the opportunity to knock out the champion, or
just
the ex-champion. I'd take that.
Yeah, of course, we have got the next champion here as well, but he's just now a magician. So.
No, I'm not an ex-champion. I never won.
No, yeah, but you're a champion at heart, mate. You put the effort in.
No,
you had a stunning good smile.
And a dapper coat as well, of course.
Yeah.
And do you know the reason why Leroy is so good at the things he does?
What's that?
It's because he's got an Intel CPU inside, and you too can be of a chance to grab yourself an Intel i7 8700K. All you got to do is head over to the link down below, esl.im/Intel giveaway. Grab yourself a tasty bit of kit and become a man just like Leroy. You can be stunning. But something even better than that, we have Frankie ready up on stage with, I believe, an interview with our winner, Paradox. It is going to be amazing. Take it away, Frankie.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Now, just a moment ago, you were giggling like a crazy person, weren't you, Paradox? And it's contagious. We were both stood on the stage kind of giggling away. Because yesterday you were telling me you think Boarcontrol is the best player in the UK. And now you've beaten him. Is that why life is looking pretty rosy at the moment, Paradox?
I'll be honest, like, yesterday I was talking to my practice partners, Zortfar, Death Boost, and Fluffy, and then a couple of people as well from outside that group, and they were all telling me, it's like, Paradox, you've lost this series. There's no way. Every matchup for Old Warrior going into this series is 30%. You can't do it. You can't do it. But Zortfar was like, if you want to try, I'll give you a few replays. You can look over those of like Old Warrior versus Death Threat Hunter, see what you can do. And then I looked over his match of Norway versus Ukraine in the Hearthstone Global Games. And a lot of that was inspiration of how I was able to take the Death Threat Hunter versus Old Warrior matchup, as well as obviously the mind control tech. Being able to steal the Carnivorous Cube and just getting all of those 7-4s, that was just too much.
Paradox, have you been stalking Boarcontrol?
On his stream, yes.
Well, Boarcontrol does tell me he's not been playing the decks he's got this weekend on his stream, but you've obviously done your research incredibly well, my friend. I think you've got a secret camera in his bedroom, maybe.
Well, you say that, but Boarcontrol brought the literal worst lineup I could have faced in the field. My lineup is specifically designed to not play against Quest Rogue and Death Rattle Hunter, because if I play against a lineup of Quest Rogue and Death Rattle Hunter, my Old Warrior cannot win games. I had to ban Quest Rogue and just hope that I get that nice tempo start, just get those Dr. Beam hero powers, that Mind Control Tech steal, the Iron Beak Owl. So much had to go my way that series. Like, even game one, I had to top deck Hellfire for lethal. Like, do not underestimate Boarcontrol for a second. He is going to top 4 this tournament. Like, we may play again in this tournament, and he probably will beat me. Like, there is no doubt in my mind, he is the best player in the 8 of us, but now that I've beaten him, I have no doubt that I'm going to win the next series too. That's probably a bit confident, but both of the lineups I'm running into next are so good for me. Way better than Boarcontrol, that's for sure.
Well, watch this space. Maybe we'll see you in that top 4 as well. So, Paradox, I'm going to let you go and have a break. You'll be back playing in the upper bracket of the semi-finals tomorrow, and we'll see Boarcontrol in the lower bracket. Now, if you've got a reaction to that last match and you want to share it with us, use the hashtag ESL Prem. We're on the Twitter, we're on the Facebooks, we're on the YouTubes. Come and find us, have a laugh, have a chat. Maybe you you've got some praise for Paradox. Maybe you've got some commiserations for Boarcontrol. We will see you guys after the break for some more Hearthstone.